What's up, guys? It's the Dividend Profit, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my most favorite companies I think ever. So this video, I can tell already, is going to be a long one. It's going to be a long one, guys. So go ahead, grab a drink, grab some snacks, because I genuinely love the CEOs of this company. I love what the company's doing. I just think I genuinely think it's gonna be a fun one, guys. And the company that we're talking about today is gonna be iQST. And I am gonna get right into it, like always, because I know this video is gonna be a long one. Currently, it is trading at 30 cents. Once again, I like to emphasize before I go too deep into everything where this company is sitting at and why some of these things kind of matter. Now, like I said, it's kind of been gaining some traction. A couple months ago, obviously sitting at 16 cents. We're not really seeing that much volume. It's usually a lot of short traders around this area, but the reason why I'm really like, okay, I think I need to make a video and stop just gatekeeping to myself is because we're starting to see a lot more volume around this area. And we know what happens when we start to see more volume, we start to see increased share price, right? So what's important is with the increase of volume and obviously the higher share price sitting at 30 cents, that to me is going to be really cheap. I'm gonna get into why, but I think anything for me personally under $1 is still gonna be relatively cheap for this stock. And for full disclaimer, this is not financial advice, but I do this for fun and I like to analyze stocks just because it's something that I enjoy to do in my free time. I do plan to hold this one relatively long term, bare minimum, right? Bare minimum, guys. I'm going to hold this one at least to $2, and I genuinely probably won't even sell after that. I don't plan to short this one. I think we are going to see an increase of short interest coming in soon. Usually around 50 to 60 cents is, I think, when we're really going to start to see a lot of shorts getting into this stock. But the reason I'm emphasizing why I'm personally getting in now, I got in at 29 cents, and why I plan to genuinely get in now is strictly because we're essentially the retail investors are going to be the first people truly really getting into this. Shorts, a lot of shorts aren't in the stock yet. Institutional investors aren't in the stock yet. A lot of this is controlled by retail, right? So I really, really do like to see the momentum of the stock, and I really do like to see the stock price, right? And this is the 6 months, so it's been very flat and stagnant. So I know people who have been holding for a very long time are not very happy with where the stock is at right now, right? And you're like, they held for this long just for it to get to $1.04, right? I can see why a lot of long-term investors aren't the most happy with this one and why some people, short sold it. But the reason why I'm re-emphasizing this talk once again is because I think we're going to gain a lot of momentum going into 2025. So we're going to get into their website. Now, another reason why I feel like iQST hasn't been doing as well, I would say, in the past couple of years is just because, as a retail investor, when I'm first clicking on like their website, for example, I'm not really liking what I see. I think the website can be a whole lot better. I think the marketing of the company could be a whole lot better. Like, for example, when I'm looking at a website, this isn't the most, fun thing that I see. The last update was from 2023. I can raise like a couple red flags for people who do what I like to say quick, due diligence. Who people who like to, just skim through everything and just kind of glance around. It's not gonna look as great coming in as a retail investor. Looking at a lot of these numbers, and a lot of them are from 2022, 2023, right? And we're going into 2025 right now as I make this. So I can definitely see why a lot of people are very hesitant on the stock without fully looking into it and just like looking at it from, a glancement standpoint. It's not, I think their marketing could definitely be better, but that's something that we're definitely going to get into later in the video. Um, so that's another reason why I feel like maybe we haven't seen as much growth within this time frame is genuinely because as it's led, the stock price is led by retail, and if retail is really just looking at this and glancing at this, right, and they're looking at the stagnation of the prices and they're looking at the stagnation of the website and the marketing, I can definitely see why people are a little more hesitant to get in. But the reason why I still got in, and the reason I believe in this company, and why I believe it's a good thing to at least add onto your watch list. Um, we're going to get into that. But I do want to emphasize once again, this is not financial advice, but I am once again getting it at 29 cents. If you do decide to get in around 29 cents, right, this is just my prediction. I do believe we're going to have to wait for a little bit to see, $2 NASDAQ. Like, I don't genuinely think we're going to be seeing that right away. I do think that's going to take some time. But once again, I'm going into this as a long term, so I wouldn't necessarily put in your options calls right away, guys. I wouldn't necessarily go ahead and be like, I'm going to be a millionaire by tomorrow. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I do plan to hold this stock and really load up on this stock as much as possible until it does take off. Like I said, anything for me in my price target is really going to be underneath a dollar. And as long as maybe even a little bit over a dollar, right? 150, even buying it at 150 still isn't going to be bad because once again, price target for the NASDAQ so they can attract more institutional investors is going to be $2. So even if I'm buying in at 150, I'm still not really seeing it as necessarily a bad thing, right? As long as I'm getting in really truly before institutions, I think I'm perfectly okay with that, right? But what is iQSTL? Like, I'm talking about iQST, I'm talking about it so much, but what is it and why should you care? It's a multinational telecommunications company, right? So its primary market is obviously, it's going to say the United States. But one thing I do really like about this stock is that it's global. Point blank period. It is global, right? We're seeing whole bunch of different countries, but what I really like is what they're doing in a lot of the Spanish speaking countries when it comes to like Venezuela, Argentina, and a whole bunch of like Colombia, a whole bunch of Spanish speaking countries. I really feel like they know what they're doing and they're really putting their foot down in these countries. So I really do like to see a lot of global, right? I would definitely check out this art, this filing right here, right? They talk about a lot. I mean, pretty much saying it started all the way back in 2008. Leonardo, he's been in this for a while, right? But we're gonna get into it, right? So iQST does a lot. One of their main things they're going to be known for is going to be their mergers and acquisitions, right? Pretty much 99% of the revenue is going to come from the telecommunications industry. But what's really catching my attention when it comes to the stock is that they're attempting to essentially branch out into other divisions, right? As you can see, this Fintech is, obviously slid in right here. EV business line is going to be kind of slid in right here. Same with the AI enhanced metaverse business line, right? But all these other mergers and acquisitions that they have are all going to be within the telecommunications business line. When they're making majority of their revenue from the telecommunications line and they're constantly merging with them, that's to me is a good sign. I mean, they're trying to grow within the space, right? I just love to see that. But this is the updated version. Another reason why I was saying I think they definitely need to work on their actual marketing of the company if they do want to attract more retail investors. As you can see, this one hasn't been updated since 2023, and most people are going to only look at this and they're not really going to go and take the time to figure out this piece of information here that I got from the otcmarkets.com. Now, to kind of once again go into it, they have 4 business divisions, right? Enhanced Telecommunications, which is going to be their main source of income. Their fintech, essentially, it's going to be, think about a credit card or a card that you can get, debit card even, that you can get. You don't need a social security number in order to get it to transfer money. This is going to be very important for people in America specifically, that might be immigrants, for example, that might not have a social security card, or, it might hinder them from getting access to certain things, right? That's where this kind of comes in. Same with the EV market. EV market is really going to be emphasized in those Latin American countries. They're not trying to compete with Tesla, guys. They're not trying to compete even with Harley Davidson. We'll go into that later, right? But it's really going to be emphasizing cheap, in a sense, right? Cheap electric vehicles that can be used, as he explains later, almost as like a second vehicle, right? So it's not going to be like the main car. It's not going to be the BMW, but it's going to be something like, hey, I said that I need to go get milk from the grocery store that's right down the street. Instead of me having to account for gas and pay for gas, I'm going to just take this little EV that I paid $5,000 for, almost similar to a scooter, to go to the store and get what I need. Same with the artificial intelligence, right? This one, to me, is a really cool idea, right? We have this little guy right here. just standing in the corner. A lot of you guys may or may not have noticed him, but I definitely think this little buddy right here is definitely, he's pretty cool, right? He's pretty cool. So I'm gonna keep it very simple for now, just kind of explaining their main four business units. As you can see, the business lines and subsidiaries, right? So QXTEL is going to be one of the biggest ones. This is one that they're pretty much working on, kind of enhancing, right? Electric vehicles, AI enhanced metaverse. These are essentially just the actual brand names of the companies that they're working with that actually pertain to the different services, the four business services that I had mentioned earlier. Now, this is where we kind of start to get into the numbers of everything, right? So essentially their core business is obviously, like I said and I mentioned, going to be the telecommunications division. The market size, right, is 10.7 billion in annual revenue, 257 billion in minutes, right? That's cool. It's just a bunch of numbers, right? Well, what does that mean for us? Wholesale carriers, right, that's going to be very important, have a 72% total market share. The company's current market share is around 2%, right? So essentially, they have the ability to capture, quote unquote, 70% of the market, right? If we're being overly bullish, we'll go for 20% right now. This is a growing market, right? As you can see, with a compounding annual growth rate of 4.9%. I mean, we just like to see it. I like to see growth within the industry. And once again, iQSTEL, right, just so it's not just me saying these numbers, they actually correct me and say it's 98% of its revenue, right? Not 99, it's 98% of its revenue, which is something that's good to see. And once again, this is just going to be all the subsidiaries of, the companies that they pretty much bought out. Now, pretty much, 70% of their revenue stream is going to come from the voice. It's kind of hard to explain, and once again, I'm going to leverage the AI to kind of explain it better than I can, right? This is the whole point of the AI, and the SMS business is going to be roughly 30%. So I'm going to literally go for the people who are like, what am I talking about? I'm going to leverage the AI and use the AI to explain, okay, this is what Airweb is essentially, and this is how powerful it can be on a website. So I am a potential investor, but I don't quite understand what the telecommunications industry actually does. What is the VoIP, for example, and what is the SMS messages, and why is this important to me as an investor, considering that 98% of their revenue comes from these two features? Explain it to me like I'm 5. He's going to think about it a little bit, and then he's going to let us know. And this is one reason why I really do love the power of AI, especially when it's leveraged and used correctly. I think
Great
really
question.
cool.
So, imagine you want to talk to a friend who lives far away. VoIP is like using the internet to make a phone call, just like chatting over video games. SMS messages are like sending quick notes to your friends on your phone. These things are super important for iQSTEL because they help people connect all over the world. Since lots of people use these services, they bring in a lot of money, which means your investment could grow. Want to dive deeper into iQSTEL's offerings to see how they work?
Right, and that's one reason why I do like the AI, and I really encourage you guys as new investors, because I don't really expect everybody to stay for the full video. If I'm being real, I expect a lot of people to sit there and fall off within the next 5 minutes. But for the people who are genuinely interested in learning about this company, go to their website and talk to this guy. Like, ask him any question, and he answers the questions very well. He answers them very clearly, and I think he does an amazing job of explaining what the company is. It's like literally being able to ask any question about the company and getting it answered, uh, essentially right away. Right. So I just think that's important to kind of understand what how it's divided within the telecommunications industry, and to understand like how much of each company iQSTEL actually owns. Like QXTEL, for example, is only 51, 51, 51, 51, 100. I just think it's very important to also understand these things and kind of look at the subsidiaries ownership chart. Now, once again, right, going back into the wholesale products and why that's so important is because if 70% of the market essentially is market share is wholesale products, right? And they have such a big presence in the wholesale product market, right? That allows them to get more market share. That allows them to capture more as long as they keep moving in the direction. If they were that 30%, it'd be a whole lot harder. I mean, they still have obviously some footing there in that 30%, but having that footing right there in that 70% is going to allow them to really set themselves as a key grower in these next couple of years as the business keeps growing, right? Now, as you guys know, if you've watched any of my other videos, you guys know that I like to see, when we're looking at customers, vendors, partnerships, I like to see that not only do they have a lot of partners, but they have key partners, right? And the ones that I really do like to see is going to be Verizon right here, IBM down here, and Deutsche Telekom, also known as T-Mobile right here. I like to see these, especially as an American, because I know these are big companies. If I'm being realistic, I don't even know the magnitude of a lot of these companies that are going to be on here, right? I hear a lot about Telefonica as well, right? But if I'm being honest, I don't really know as much as I would like to know about a lot of these smaller companies. But seeing Verizon, Deutsche Telekom, and IBM alone is really going to make me a lot more comfortable as an investor, just seeing some of these main customers and vendors being present, right? Uh, it's just really good to see not only a magnitude of partners from worldwide, but being able to see some of these key players here be involved in what iQSTEL has to offer. Once again, guys, currently trading at 30 cents, which I think is going to be very important. Now, we're going to also get into, right, essentially how the wholesale voice and SMS kind of works, right? They put it in here to try to simplify it, and I'm going to try to simplify it as well because I feel like the whole telecommunications thing is going to go way over our head trying to explain it as a retail investor. That's why I really encourage using and leveraging the AI that they have on their website to really just ask questions and have fun with it, you know? So essentially, right, when telecommunications operators in Spain need to send calls or SMS to like China, for example, rather than negotiating directly with Chinese operators that engage with iQSTEL, right? And so essentially, right, I forgot to tell you guys, this bad boy right here speaks 57 languages. That's a little fun fact just to throw in there. But instead of a Spanish company like Telefonica trying to negotiate with, I don't really know a Chinese company, unfortunately. So, but trying to, negotiate with a Chinese company, they would just be able to use the third party, third man, right, iQSTL. Um, and essentially, right, they earn profit from managing the process. Now, if I'm being 100% transparent, this is one of the things that a lot of bears have problems with, right? Bears are, the people who aren't as bullish on the stock, people who don't think the stock is going to go automatically up, right? They like to say that their margins aren't going to be that big. I mean, if 98% of your revenue is going to be coming from telecommunications, right, and it's going to be coming from essentially things similar to this, and you're earning a gross profit from managing the process, but your margins are only going to be 2 to 3%, it's going to be very hard for me to be as bullish on a company with such low margins, right? And we are going to get into margins, but I just want to really emphasize this is essentially how they make a lot of the revenue currently, right? It's going to be through their margins. Um, my bad, guys. I'm learning how to scroll here, right? Same with another cool thing that I did want to slide in there is its B chain is leveraging blockchain technology essentially for phone number portability, right? So like let's say essentially your phone number is going to be put on the blockchain, and it's just going to be a lot simpler to keep your phone number and not have to constantly change and change and change. Um, that's like the easiest way I can explain it. If I'm being honest, it's a little complicated. I am gonna go back here and leverage the AI. How would you explain the phone number portability blockchain technology? Very simple. Just take a little bit to think, but I think he definitely does a good job of explaining everything.
Sure. Phone number portability is like a magic trick that lets you keep your phone number even if you switch to a different phone company. Now, blockchain is like a super secure notebook that everyone can see but can't change. So with our technology, when you switch companies, it keeps track and makes sure everything is safe and smooth. This helps customers and companies trust the process. Would you like more info on how this benefits iQSTEL?
Cool, right? So he explained it a little bit better than I could, which is just why I love leveraging AI. Like I really don't know everything, right? And it's gonna be the same here, right? Their fintech division, it's gonna be a U.S. bank account that does not require a social security number, and it has a mobile app slash wallet, pretty much for international money sending. So that's going to be another little fun thing that they have going on the side. Once again, these are not their main streams of revenue, if some of them are even making revenue, honestly, currently. Yeah, so like currently the company's in the process of redefining the final product following the release of its beta version and extensive testing with over 1,000 users, right? So a lot of these things outside of the telecom communications industry isn't fully profitable yet. These are a lot more speculative than the telecommunications revenue within itself, right? So when we're talking about the blockchain and we're talking about the electric vehicles that we're about to see, and we're talking about the Fintech, not saying that these aren't cool ideas, but these are definitely ideas that we're going to see really probably start to take full effect and really start to be profitable, not until like 2027, maybe 2028, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't really expect to see any increased revenue truly until around those time periods when they actually get stuff launched and when they actually get things going, right? So it's going to be the same with electrical vehicles division. Once again, they're working, on getting their trademarks, within Europe and within the United States, pursuing e-mark certification, right? So these are going to be more things that are going to be work in progress. Production of the initial batch for testing purposes, it's continuing in the second half of 2024. So this is just something that's moving, right? So once again, these aren't going to be necessarily key things for short-term investors, but once again, for the long-term investors, these are things that we should be keeping an eye on, making sure that we're just tracking the progress as these things kind of develop further. And once again, with electric vehicles, they're not trying to compete with Tesla. They're not trying to compete with Harley Davidson. No, their main industry is going to be Spain, Portugal, Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, Panama, Guatemala, and Malta. I did skip over the USA. It's still going to be a little bit in the USA, but I can really see it taking true effect in a lot of these countries right here, strictly for the fact of their actual road design and stuff is going to be a whole lot different. They're going to be a higher use case, right? A price-friendly asset that they can use to get from A to B, right? In America, we're going to be more inclined to buy a Tesla because we want luxury, we want to stand out, right? A lot of these other countries that just want to get from A to B, they don't really care about as much of that stuff. This is where I can really see the market for electric vehicles really taking off, right? It plans to introduce motorcycles, electric cars here, once again. Just re-emphasizing those Latin American countries that we've seen. Same with the AI based assistants. I just really do like to see them leveraging AI and metaverse technology and it actually being somewhat useful, like being able to ask this little guy about questions that I have. Definitely, like I said, help me understand what the company was. I could just go back and forth with them and he truly understand what I was saying, right? So I do like to see them kind of tapping into the AI space as well as they continue to go through the telecommunications realm, right? But to now go into kind of the revenue growth and diversification, they are very big on organic growth. I am going to get into financials. I have gone quite a bit into it without fully touching on the financials, so I do apologize. I know a lot of people like to stay mainly for financials, right? But they're very focused on organic growth. iQSTEL reported audited revenue, right, of 13.8 million in 2018. So this is seven years ago. 2023, companies reaching 144.5 million. This is pretty much almost nearly a tenfold growth. Like we like to see that, right? Looking ahead, in 2024, essentially we just want to keep going. Goal 290 million, exceeding 100%, right? Exceeding 100% growth. Very, very big on organic expansion. iQSTEL is going to be one of the main reasons, and we're going to dive into this company, how much it's giving them, right? iQSTEL is going to be one of the main drivers of revenue. And keep in mind, one thing that's going to be very important as we kind of get into this, right? The company is currently on an annual revenue run rate of 290 million, reflecting remarkable year-over-year growth exceeding 100%. This projected growth is attributed to anticipated organic expansion in revenue, right, from iQSTEL. Now, they're expecting to grow, like they hit 290 million, and this forecast does not include their potential acquisition of Link Telecom. So, really focusing in on this right here is not even including everything that they're working on, right? iQSTEL has a history of meeting and often surpassing financial forecasts. So once again, if they're expected to hit 1 billion by 2027, and all I'm saying is, right, they have a history of meeting and often surpassing financial forecasts. Is it kind of portraying that even $1 billion might be on the lower end? Right? And that's, like I said, this is all speculative. This is not financial advice. Take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm just a kid, guys. What do I know, right? But seriously, if we're looking at 290 million, not including Link Telecom, right? And we're not including all the potential other partnerships that they can do, the compounding annual growth rate per year. Like I just think it's very interesting to potentially see where this company's going to go. Once again, annual revenue growth of approximately 44% each year. Impressive organic growth of 51 million, marking a 55% increase compared to 2022. Right? I love to see an increase of revenue, right? It's going to be one of the main things that I just like seeing when I'm looking at these kinds of things, right? Now, sales forecast of $290 million reflects not only the addition, right, of approximately 60 million from iQSTEL acquisition, but also an expected 90 million in organic revenue growth. So this is not just coming from their acquisitions, guys. It's also incorporating the organic revenue growth that they're growing from within their company. So as you can see, the numbers are just going up, right? The numbers are just going up. I do love to see it. Now, once again, this is where it kind of becomes interesting. 1 billion for 2027. I'm not just saying these numbers for any reason, right? The plan is going to be essentially to start attracting investment banks and institutional investors, right? It's very interesting to sit there and truly look at this $1 million plan and look into the details of the $1 billion plan to truly understand kind of how the company and the CFOs and the CEOs are truly looking at this $1 billion evaluation that they do have in 2027, right? Looking truly into the text, right? And looking into the English of it. To simplify the $1 billion plan, financial projections only entail the anticipated performance of the company's enhanced telecommunications divisions. Only entail the anticipated, right? I can't say that word. Performance of the company's enhanced telecommunications divisions. Any contributions to revenue and operating income from Fintech, electric vehicles, and AI metaverse divisions will augment the projected $1 billion in sales, right? Just to emphasize what augment means, right? Having been made greater in size or value. So to me, right, that means add on. So this $1 billion evaluation is not including any of these little side hustles that they got going on. This is their main job. If any of these take off before 2027, which I feel like they fully have the potential to potentially do, I mean, guys, this is 2 years from now. This is all speculation. Once again, it's not financial advice, right? But if they're able to confidently say that they're going to hit a $1 billion, if they're like without any of these sectors right here, I think it's going to get very interesting. It's going to be very interesting, and I think it's very, very important to realize that the $1 billion plan is built primarily on planned expansion of the company's sales that are primarily generated from the telecommunication services. Like I highlighted it so it's cutthroat and clear. 2027 plan $1 billion in annual sales is expected to be derived from telecommunication services alone. So we're looking at a $1 billion evaluation by 2027. And I believe 2025, if I remember correctly, I think we're going to get into that later though, it's going to be 500 million. So that's also going to be very fun, right? So I think what's also important is iQSTEL has targeted a specific acquisition opportunity, right? Described in the section right here with the potential to add 200 million to 300 million in annual revenue in 2025. Guys, what year is it? 2025. I'm not trying to be annoying when I say and I reemphasize some of these things, but genuinely understanding why I think if you are going to invest in this company, it's best to do it kind of now and kind of soon, is because we want to buy the rumor, sell the news. I feel like a lot of people get so comfortable buying the news and trying to sell the news, which is some people's investment strategy, of course, right? But just seeing this alone, iQSTEL has targeted a specific. So this, they can't say the name, but they've targeted, they have somebody, right? That's going to add this much in annual revenue. This acquisition plan includes an initiative to expand the annual sales of the target operation to, yep, like I said, 500 million by year end by 2027, right? The acquisition is being coordinated to close with our intended NASDAQ uplisting and plan to raise upwards of $30 million for the transaction. I'm just gonna kind of sit on this for a second because that part alone is enough to make me kind of, if I'm being conservative, kind of bullish on it, right, guys? Like, I really, really like to see this, and why I'm making these videos now is because I don't want this partnership to come out, the stock price shoots up, and I'm like, dang, I definitely should have let the people know ahead of time before it came out, so they had a fair opportunity to invest in it once again while it's 30 cents. Right? I don't fully believe that it's going to stay at this price for too much longer when people start to look at what the company's doing, how profitable they are, what they plan to expand into. And once they get some of these things that I'm going to talk about later, and I don't mean to be annoying about it, right? By saying later, later, later. But the reason this video is so long is because I really want to emphasize breaking each thing down specifically by what's important and what's not. Because realistically, we still have a long way to go. This is just the beginning, right? If you're going to take anything away from this, right, understand that once this partnership is coming into play and adding on this much in sales and revenue, it's going to start to look very fun for the stock. I mean, it's going to be hard for it to be so undervalued. Like, it's ready to pop. It's like a pimple with a white head on it, and you're telling people not to touch it. Eventually, you're going to want to pop it, right? Once again, this is organic growth projections. Organic growth projections, right? And this is kind of going into the current business valuation to be between 158 to 198 million. Now we're going to kind of transfer into what their actual plan for their company is, right? We keep hearing a bunch of these extravagant numbers, but I think it's also going to be pretty important to understand how are we actually going to get there. Their plan, transform the Telecommunications Corporation, right? They're not just going to be a holding company anymore. They're essentially trying to change, I don't want to say they're even trying to change the telecommunications industry, but they're just not trying not to be a holding company anymore, right? With the Link Telecom acquisition within itself, and I don't even think this one is the one that they're referring to in that last one. So not only are they going to get this Link Telecom acquisition, right, which is going to increase revenue by 20 million within itself and operating income by 1 million, but we also are going to have that other specific person that they're referring to, but they can't say yet, also probably adding on within the next maybe couple months. Hopefully a couple months, right? Because like I said, I want to try to give people time to get in this one, right? But at the same time, it's going to say right here, we plan to acquire or partner with a single switching platform for all of our telecom subsidiaries to improve synergies and reduce. And once again, right, reduce technological costs. I like to see increasing revenues, but they're also very aware that they need to reduce their technological costs, right? And once again, expanding retail and corporate business. Cool. The company now, one thing that the bears like to mention again is going to be the margins, right? The margins aren't that good. The margins are only 2%, whatever. The margins aren't that good. The company is very aware that their margins are not the best. No company that makes this much money wants to only have 2 to 3% margins. That's not good for anybody, right? But they're very aware of this, right? The company is improving margins within the enhanced telecommunications division, right? Through operational streamlining, through following acquisitions. And we're going to actually speak on some of these acquisitions and get into why these acquisitions are important, why they're not just some random acquisitions, right? and really emphasizing what these acquisitions have been able to do for this company. And if they continue to add on acquisitions, right, and other mergers, while emphasizing organic company growth, is going to be very hard for this company to not go to even a dollar, right? A dollar isn't even doing what they need to do fully. But when they continuously do these things, it's going to be very hard for the company not to start moving the direction that it needs to move. Um, right? But their plan is to introduce higher margin products through Fintech, EV, and AI metaverse divisions. So people that are like, okay, well, you have a telecommunications business. Why in the world would you even think about doing Fintech, EV, and AI metaverse divisions? It's because one of their main weaknesses that the company notices is that their margins are not going to be as effective. Their margins are going to be very low. So in order to combat some of those margins while still being able to advance within the telecommunications industry, right? Is going to be to branch off into other emerging sectors that they can sit there and potentially benefit from, which is going to be fintech, which is going to be EVs, which are going to be AI and metaverse divisions. Now, obviously, this is way off topic and way overhand, right? But when we think about what SoFi is doing, even for example, I'm not saying iQST is going to be anything close to SoFi, right? But what I am saying is we're seeing SoFi start to take off. What I am saying is for the electric vehicle space, we're starting to see Rivian take off. We're starting to see, we saw Tesla take off, right? When we start to talk about AI and metaverse divisions, I mean, we see what Meta's doing, we see what Nvidia is doing, we see what AMD is doing. Now, I'm not saying in any ways are those correlated, but what I am saying in a lot of these high profit stocks, a lot of these high growing stocks, we see these narratives being pushed. So the fact that iQST is even a part, has a position to be a part of these narratives as such a small company, once again worth 30 cents. The fact that they're even able to be within that space and sector and being able to say that, I think is going to add a lot of good positioning for them in the long term, as long as they execute these things properly, which I certainly believe that they will, especially getting to meet the CEOs and getting to see essentially how they run the company and being able to kind of, really listen to how they view the company and how they view the shareholders. Now, once again, now this is going to be where it's very important, right? So right there, we're kind of talking about some of the bad things that they have, right? So we're kind of talking about some things that they need to work on. Margin increase is going to be definitely a thing that they're going to need to improve, but they're very aware that they need to improve it and have already made efforts to improve it. Now, as far as our marketing enhancement, we plan to revamp all marketing materials and corporate messages to align with our new corporate identity, right? I mean, once again, I'm gonna go back to it. This website is horrible. I'm not even gonna try to sit here and sugarcoat it. I do not like this website at all. And this is, keep in mind, guys. I used to run a social media marketing agency. And so me looking at this website and understanding that they're trying to bring in investors, I'm like, something needs to change. But the good thing is, right? The good thing is, and one thing that I do like to see is that they've made it very clear that that is something that they plan to change. This is going to be one of the major steps that they're going to need, I feel like, to attract not only more retail investors but more investment bankers as well, right? I'm kind of debating how I want to. I'm gonna save the marketing part for later. I think I'm gonna get into that in a second, right? But once again, capital raising. They intend to raise 10.5 million, leaving approximately 5 million in free cash after debt redemption. Now this is where it's gonna get fun, guys. This was obviously made in August 2024. This is why I am very bullish on 2025 compared to what has been happening the past couple of years. I mean, as you can see, it's been very stagnant, very flat. If you have been holding since 2022, you guys are probably not as excited as I am, unless you're smart, right? I'm just kidding. But if you were sitting here holding, trying to make some quick gains, you probably were not that happy. If you were smart and you were sitting here accumulating from this time, accumulating, you should be well over 100,000 shares, and you should be getting ready to have a lot of fun soon, right? But essentially, 2025 is time to double our business size. Now, as a accumulation of the first step of our strategic acquisition strategy, and as we prepare the company for exchange listing, right, NASDAQ listing, iQSTEL will pursue the acquisition or merger with a private or public company, right? So this is going to be very fun. 500 million in consolidated revenues per year is essentially their goal, right? I highlighted this too, right? Because a lot of people like to talk about the debt. You know, they very much comment on the debt. If we're not able to secure additional funding, the implementation of our business plan will be impaired, right? So they're very transparent on how they plan to leverage their debt and what they plan to do with it, right? And keep in mind, they're currently at OTCQX, essentially in that market. Um, but like we said, that is planned to change. So a lot of people are very hesitant because of that. But like I said, they are trying to transition into a NASDAQ listed company. For the people who haven't fully grasped why they've stayed in this market for so long and why such a good company is only worth 30 cents and why such a company is essentially not in the NASDAQ, not trading within, these bigger markets, and is because they're very big on organic growth, and they're very much taking their time and ensuring that they're doing things correctly, right? As of today, we have successfully closed all governance gaps and now meet all, right? All NASDAQ requirements except the minimum share price. And what is the minimum share price, guys? $2. I think that is going to be one of the most important things that I say is going to be $2, right? Everything else is required for the NASDAQ requirements. And this isn't even just because, like, we're bullish on the $2 aspect of things, but it's showing the solidness of the company. Over 20,000 shareholders, stockholder equity is good. They have an audit committee, code of ethics, annual shareholders meeting. These criteria right here for a 30-cent stock is usually unheard of. You will pretty much not hear, I don't want to say never, but you will pretty much not hear of a company that has all of these check marks essentially listed off onto it. Once again, trading for the price it's trading at. And I am reporting on this late. Once again, this stock was just at 16 cents, right? It was just at 16 cents. Like, we're not going to see this forever. Right, and we're going to get into the management. Like I said, later, we're going to actually get to hear from them and see what the CEO is, because this is a lot of book work. This is a lot of paper work. I like to genuinely feel the feel of the company, how the company's being represented, how do the employees feel, because a lot of this is going to be book value, right? But management believes that the current IQST stock price does not reflect the true valuation of our business. I mean, I feel like that's such an important thing. I mean, I won't even say important thing. I feel like that's such a common sense thing is what I meant to say. I mean, when you look at the fundamentals of this company, the stock price just is nowhere near. Even if you think this is a horrible company, uh, somehow I don't know how you would go through this video still thinking that realistically. But even if you somehow think this is a horrible company, a fair valuation price would still be around 80 cents, which is still a crazy upside from now. Now, this is going to be very important because a lot of the bears like to bring up reverse stock splits and dilution, right? Now, they specifically say, and they're going to say it a bunch of times, they're going to say it multiple times over, and we're going to prove it later. While a reverse stock split is a viable option to meet the NASDAQ minimum share price requirement, we prefer to see the stock price rise organically. This is not just something that they're saying, and we're going to go into it later on why I truly believe that the company is going to stand by its word and why we're not going to see a reverse stock split anytime soon, and why they haven't done pretty much any since ever, right? And successfully fundraising history since 2018, right? This is like 7 years ago. The company has raised over 20 million through different instruments, right? Right here, they list all of them. They have proven that they do not need to reverse stock split in order to raise and get money. Management believes that having raised over 20 million, right, while only having a total issued of 183.5 million common shares is a testament to management's absolute commitment to a responsible capital structure management strategy. Now, like I said again, a lot of this is going to be a lot of paper value. I am a newer investor, right? So keep that in mind. I'm going to be referencing to a lot of long-term holders and investors and their experience, right? When it comes to this company and how they have not reversed stock split and how they have been able to encourage their shareholders and how they have had a relationship with their shareholders. I think that is going to be very important um, for those people who are long term, right? And I'm kind of going off on a tangent a little bit, but once again, it just really emphasizes that we are not going to have to sit there and really worry about a reverse stock split. I don't really think that's something that's genuinely gonna be something that we have to worry about. Like, it's not something that's occurred really in the past, and I don't think it's going to be something that's continuously causing problem. Now, they are going to have some debt. I mean, that's going to be with any company really that's kind of within this market. Um, but what I do like to see is that with all future funders and lenders for a prompt return on investment, and they plan to repay their debts. I mean, like always, no dip, right? They genuinely plan to repay off their debts pretty quickly. Like the intention of the company is to raise 10.5 million to redeem all the debts, right? And then have 5 million available to support campaigns and organic growth. Like I'm not really too worried about the debt because a lot of the debt and where I'm gonna play a video on it. I'm gonna play a video on it. I'm gonna keep it simple. Keep it simple for now. I'm not even gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that later. Like I said, part of this video is going to be me explaining the company myself. Then it's going to be almost like the second half is going to be a reaction video where we listen to people who have been experienced, talk to the CEOs, and the CEOs themselves talk about the company and really just get a whole bunch of different perspectives on the matter because right now I feel like for iQST, there's a lot of individuals speaking. My goal is to really bring all of these individuals speaking together so we have one consensus video of why all these different long-term investors and short-term investors and new retail investors, even shorts, are kind of coming to this stock and really attracted to it, right? But anyways, the company plans to participate in key investor conferences and explore engagement with investment bank and underwriters. Keep in mind, this is something that they've already been doing. We're going to really, like I said, go into it later. I just want to make sure I hit a lot of these things while we're still here. Once again, their business valuation is going to be 158 between 198. They're very big on increasing shareholder value. And, right, we believe our $1 billion plan is ideally timed with our NASDAQ uplisting initiative. So what I hear when I hear that specifically is that they're going to hit $2 within 2027. So if you're telling me I have the ability to whatever X my money from now to 2027, not guaranteed, right? But a high probability, I'm going to be very, very interested in a stock that says, that's very, very big on their $1 billion plan and their Nasdaq uplisting. They've proven that this is something that they're serious about, and they've checked out every single other criteria. It's really going to be up to retail and them finding a big investment bank or a big investor. And like I said, if they do decide to find a big investor, that's going to take time, and they're going to be buying into it month by month by month, because if they buy in immediately, it's essentially going to make the share price skyrocket, and it's not going to be very fun, right? And once again, when we go and we look at the volume, if the volume isn't as high, right, and a lot of the volume is coming in from short traders and day traders trying to make a quick buck, if an investment company does come in and they want to buy, they can't just buy it all at one time. No, they're going to have to buy it in over time periods, buying, a certain percentage day by day by day. Essentially, as we've seen, right, making the floor price go from like 16 cents to, lingering around 30, right? Because more and more holders and more long-term investors that don't plan to sell are coming in. Now, once again, we're going to kind of start going into the actual CEO of the company, right? I always pronounce his name wrong. I call him Leonardo. So if I say that again, my bad, man. But Leandro, right, has over 20 years of experience in the telecommunications industry. He has a lot of experience within the industry. I love to see that, right? He was a part of one of the largest telecommunications providers in Venezuela, which is another reason why I said I like to see that he has I like to see that iQST is expanding into a lot of these Latin American countries because their CEO specifically has a lot of experience within this space. Forgive me, I don't really know his race or ethnicity, but I'm pretty sure he, English isn't one of his first languages, so I'm pretty sure he might be from one of these countries, right? So he has a full understanding of what it's kind of like in a lot of these Latin American countries. And once again, I just like to see it. I really do like to see it. He has a full grasp of what's going on over there and plans to really capture in these markets that a lot of American investors really aren't as familiar with. Same with Alvaro. He's same thing, over 20 years of experience within the telecommunications industry, right? He's chief financial officer. Same with Raul, 40 years of experience. 40 years of experience. Oh my goodness, that's just a lot. I'm not gonna go too much into that, but like I love to see 20. I love to see another 20. I love to see 40, right? Now, that's going to be some of the main things that we're going to take away from this. Once again, I want you guys to really look into it if you guys have time. I think it's a good thing to just re-go over and re-look at. And I think there's a lot of cool things that I might have potentially even missed. Now, we are going to go straight into some of their partners. and why I think that some of the mergers and acquisitions that they are doing is going to be very cool, right? So iQSTEL launches AirWeb, a revolutionary 24/7 AI system for customer engagements across web and phone channels. So essentially, we kind of already leveraged this guy right here, but it's going to be him. This is Mr. AirWeb, right? And the reason I like to emphasize this is because when we start to sit there and talk about customer engagement services, we can look at LPSN, right? Live person, right? I did a whole entire video on them and why I like them, but it'd be very hard for me to sit there and say I like them and say I don't like what iQST is doing, and essentially how they plan to capture, somewhat shares of the market, right? Because LPSN is amazing, don't get me wrong, but 57 languages, personalized, efficient interactions, while significantly reducing operational costs, right? This essentially is AI market of customer service is definitely something that we're moving into. I mean, I had pulled up the quote of Elon Musk. I think it was something like, tech service will be replaced or whatever by whatever, right? So even Elon Musk is sitting there saying stuff like this. And granted, his tweets mean absolutely nothing, but I'm just saying it's definitely a thing to kind of consider when we're thinking about some of these things, right? So I mean, it's estimated 496 billion. This is kind of old. Just 741 by 2030. We just really like to see that they're really encapsulating into this market. Enables businesses to reduce costs and customer service. So this is definitely something that they definitely probably would be interested in. And once again, I encourage you guys to take some time and really interact with this guy and really go on the website and just talk to him, man. He's a cool dude. He's a cool dude. I really do like him. I think he's pretty cool. But yeah, so AirWeb is pretty cool. That's what that guy is right there. Just pretty much explaining why I do like this partnership. Now, this is gonna be one of my main favorite ones right here. I don't know how to pronounce it. Honestly, Securion is how I'm gonna be pronouncing it today. But it's essentially gonna be cybersecurity. Um, I mean, they're loving it, right? They're learning, they're loving it, they're loving it. Within the telecommunications industry, them having cybersecurity within it, it's going to be really cool. They already provide cybersecurity for other telecommunications industries, but to see them partner with the iQSTL, is just going to be amazing, right? And once again, they are encapsulating themselves into these growing markets. So even though, like we had mentioned earlier, their main source of revenue is going to be from these telecommunication industries with these growing markets, um, just the compounding annual growth rates of these markets, and they're just kind of working their way through the market share. Even if they don't have like a crazy amount of the market and they only have 0.005% of the market, right? Them just adding all these revenue streams that are going to be high margins, right? Which is gonna be another very, very important thing I forgot to almost touch on. It's just gonna be very important, right? Um, it's just yeah. So right, so iQSTL's purchasing power ensures significantly lower cybersecurity costs for customers while maintaining competitive edge. So essentially, while iQST is partnering with other companies, it's essentially the cybersecurity aspect of it. It's just another way for them to technically upsell their customers is how I see it. So it's like, you go into a restaurant, you're like, oh yeah, I want a cheeseburger, and they're just like, would you like fries with that? That's what the cybersecurity is. The cybersecurity is, would you like fries with that? Which probably isn't the best way to really explain that, right? But this is not just some random company, guys. I mean, 45 large active contracts. We're sitting at 2023 in revenue at 19.6 million. Um, like I said, I do like to see this company. We're going to kind of dive a little bit into what they are. So now this one is a little bit outdated. This was from 2022. Unfortunately, they don't really have as much updated content as I would like, which is something, like I said, I want to see them do better on from the marketing aspect. Updating their investors and retailers. But this is old, but it's just kind of emphasizing that cybersecurity is going to be a very important sector that's growing. Just in general now, as time really goes on, one of the largest markets for cybersecurity is going to be in the U.S. and this company just does plan to like really tackle that, right? And some of their key clients is going to be with the United States government, and some of their commercial ones, right, is going to be AT&T, it's going to be Verizon, right? So I think this is going to be very important and very interesting. And even these guys right here, they kind of pop up every now and then. But just seeing them kind of have Verizon, AT&T, and Deutsche Telekom, like they're essentially hitting a lot of sectors within the market, and I just really do like to see that. I really do. Same with a lot of these government contracts. I really do like to see that. Like, I know I keep saying that, guys. I'm not trying to be annoying. I would definitely recommend you guys just, going through, looking through, especially if you want to be a long-term investor. Like I said, I'm not going to take too much time on it because it does take a while. But we are going to kind of start transitioning into. I mean, this is a little important right here, but I'm not gonna fully go into it yet. I kind of want you guys to just remember, iQSTEL will issue 600,000 restricted iQST common stock rights. So that just essentially means to me that this is going to be locked away and it's not going to be in fluctuation. Now, but what I really did want to go into is that iQSTEL has partnered with Onar, a top-tier marketing agency, to amplify its branding and marketing presence, right? So although they're doing all these cute, cool things, when I click on their website, it doesn't really feel like that. It'd be very hard for me to sit there and be like, oh yeah, this company is doing all these things, when it's not even truly, I feel like, represented within their website. Like, you can't even see the partnership with the cybersecurity company on here. You still can't even see the partnership with Telecom on here. You would have to literally go to the OTC markets and really scroll through all these pages and read all of these things. And I don't mind doing it, guys. Like I said, I like to do this for fun. I have a lot of time on my hands and able to be doing this. For the people who don't have all this time and can't do this for every company, I feel like it's very annoying and very frustrating, right? So I think they definitely need to improve their marketing, which I started out the video with. But once again, why I like this company is because that's something that they're already working on. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that they're working with this company in particular is because this company is not just some small company. The CEO of this company has a lot of footing within this space as well, right? Now, no, I'm not gonna get into that yet. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with marketing run real quick. But yeah, so iQSTEL announced their strategic partnership with Honor to elevate market position and drive investor growth through rebranding, right? So once again, the NASDAQ listing price is gonna be $2, right? They need to get to $2. How do they plan to get to $2? Is going to be through retail investors and investment bankers. How do they attract those investment bankers and the retail investors? It's going to be, and once again, they're targeting long term. They're not targeting shorts. They want nothing to do with shorts. Shorts, please leave this video. All right, please leave this video. No, I'm just kidding. But essentially, right, they're planning and working on encouraging their marketing initiatives to truly emphasize what this company is doing. And once again, I genuinely feel like one of the main reasons that the price has been so stagnant is going to be because they haven't been able to attract enough retail investors. They haven't been able to appeal to enough institutional investors, right? This collaboration is poised to increase appeal to institutional investors, right? I feel like the main reason they haven't been moving is strictly because of that. They've been doing everything else. They've been doing the fundamentals. They just haven't been doing the one thing that they need left, right, which is essentially to get to $2. Now that they're making an initiative and they're making an effort to do that, I could see this company once again starting to take off a little bit more. Well, I'm a little bit more bullish, but we're gonna actually.
There's a range of customers. We have a very active growth pipeline.
We're gonna get into it, right, and I'm going to truly emphasize who the CEO of Honor is and why I genuinely think he will do a good job with iQST as time goes on.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that part in just a second, but I should also mention that in reading about your bio, which I've talked to you about in the past, you work with some pretty big clients as well. So obviously you've got some trust among those giants, let's say. Yeah, look, I started my career at a very non-traditional kind of upbringing from kind of the music business world, eventually the kind of marketing and advertising world. And my previous firm that I was at, we worked with mostly kind of Fortune 500 brands, right? So everything from, LVMH and Diageo through...
Once again, I'm just going to re-emphasize it, like when he's saying some of these brands, like when you have experience marketing for Rolls-Royce and BMW and Microsoft, essentially, in my eyes, you know what you're doing. Because when you're marketing for companies like Rolls-Royce, it's not going to be like you just post this ad up and then, you're obviously attracting like the average person that goes to Walmart. No, the marketing behind it is going to be a lot more thought through and thorough. So just the fact that he has marketing experience in different sectors and various areas is just amazing as well. But we'll continue with the video.
Rolls-Royce and BMW to Microsoft, right? And of course, smaller companies as well. I think for Honor, while there is some desire to have opportunity with clients in the enterprise sector, we're really focused on kind of building a business for the middle market, right? There's a lot of big holding companies that have existed for many years, Omnicom, WPP, Havas, et cetera, that really are chasing that. And we just think that the middle market is a growing area. And with technology and with a lot of the things we're doing, we really can create solutions for those middle market and growth stage companies, as well as traditional companies that maybe have been around for a long time and are just starting their digital transformation journey in the marketing world.
Yeah, Claude, you've talked about partnerships, something the company is working on and working towards getting more, one of which is with a telecom leader. So tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so super exciting working with iQSTEL. I mean, they had kind of a similar story to us in the sense that they've been a publicly traded company. They were founded in 2008 and have been kind of growing over this period of time and are now kind of in the process of uplisting to NASDAQ. We're talking about a company on its way to doing $1 billion in revenue, but really they've grown so fast they haven't done any of the work to really put their brand together and really think about how they're communicating who they are in the market. And it's a really exciting place for us to be because it's the exact type of client we want to be working with. We want to be kind of that first team in that's working directly with the CMO, the CEO, the CFO, right, to think about how we can use marketing, how we can use some of the new tactics and technology, not only to better communicate a message and a story, but also how to drive that revenue growth that they're looking for as they go into NASDAQ.
And that's just
So, I mean, boom, straight to the point, guys. He's ready to help drive that revenue growth that they need through marketing initiatives to help them get uplisted to the NASDAQ. And I feel like essentially that's at the point that we're at. That's truly what we need. It's going to be really as simple as that. And we've been able to see it start to really take place when I started to look at their LinkedIn. You can genuinely start to see them, making more posts and making better posts, as time goes on. They're starting to post more consistently, right? And essentially the reason I would say that they're posting on something like LinkedIn and really emphasizing it is because where would you want most of your retail investors to be through, right? It'd be through LinkedIn. Where would a lot of the potential investors be, right? They're gonna look at your LinkedIn. Like only a small percent of people are gonna care about how your Instagram looks, right? If we're being real, if we're being realistic, right? A lot of them aren't going to care as much about what your Twitter looks like, right? What are they going to be looking at? They're going to be looking at your LinkedIn, and they're going to be looking at it a lot. So I like to see that they're having increased posting and they're having increased marketing initiatives being placed into their LinkedIn, because what that's telling me is that they are getting ready and are, moving in the correct direction that they need to be. Because essentially a while ago they weren't specifically moving in that same direction completely. Once again,
even with
this second part of the video is going to kind of start to turn into a reaction of a lot of the good content I was able to find about iQST. But I do want to mention really quickly before I do forget that for those of you guys who are still a little bit hesitant on it, here's another reason why I am extremely bullish on this company specifically. A lot of people like to mention insider trading, and when I'm seeing essentially Swisslink, their CEO, Mr. Kohler here, swap 49% of his ownership in Swisslink, valued at $750,000, guys. This is a decent amount of money for iQSTEL common shares. And even though it is unfolding over the next 5 years, what I'm essentially seeing is that Mr. Kohler here is seeing this as a very bullish opportunity for the next 5 years. That's all I'm hearing. That's all I'm seeing, right? And once again, with essentially Swisslink and iQSTEL to be combining as well. It's also going to help them save up to $2 million annually, right? And that's just going to boost their profitability. So I'm just seeing a lot of great things, right? Like iQST plans to acquire the remaining 49% of Swisslink carrier, right? It's good to see. But what I'm seeing here is some insider buying, essentially, and we're gonna get into that later on. How much the CEO owns of the stock and how much he plans to hold. That's gonna be very key information that we're gonna get into later within this video. But for those of you guys who might be starting to tune out a little bit, thank you for the guys for everybody who's still watching. I really see it as a bullish sign, right? Because keep in mind, this was November 4th, so I am kind of reporting on this late. But when you're buying, essentially, and when you're trading $750,000 worth of iQSTEL stock, it's a very bullish flag for me as an investor, knowing that the insiders who know what they're doing are going to be very interested. Now, I do want to give a quick shout out to Boiler Master. Man, does he make some great content on iQSTEL? And this is definitely him and Shane, by the way, guys. Him and Shane. I just want to, make sure that I shout those guys out because I am using their content, and I definitely, if you guys made it this far into the video, it means you guys have a strong interest in iQST. And if you have a strong interest in iQST, I would definitely check out the Boiler Master, and I think he does a great job at explaining what's truly going on within the company. And dang, I don't know where it went. I think I lost the page on it, but essentially, let me see if I can find it real quick. But his video actually got reposted by iQST, and when you're a shareholder, your video just doesn't get reposted for no reason. Boiler Master has done multiple videos on iQST, and he has essentially, just been very, very, very informative and very open to asking a bunch of questions about the stock itself. And, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to him. I was trying to find it real quick because, like I said, iQST had reposted his video, and I wanted to emphasize that. It's like, guys, you wouldn't just get your video reposted by the company itself if you didn't know what he's talking about, right? Oh, it's right here, right? Essentially, this is a video we're about to watch right now. You wouldn't just get your video reposted if you didn't know what you're talking about, right? Like, when I say iQST has a good relationship with the shareholders, I mean they have a good relationship with their shareholders, and they genuinely make an initiative to try to essentially, just stay on their good side, in short. So let's get right into it.
Low margin if most of it is calls at 5% and expenses. So even with low margin, if most of it is calls at 5% and a small percent is text messages at 20%, well.
And right, so he's kind of going straight into it of, talking about some of the bears, and why, some people like to complain and use the margins as an excuse. He's pretty much giving like a very clear-cut explanation of why, like, of margins essentially. And I do like that, Boiler Master did decide to put the revenue per share iQST. This is October 2024, right? But essentially, the way we're moving, a fair valuation, right? And even though things don't go off of valuation, as we can see, a fair valuation would be at 157 right now. But let's go right back into the margins. And like I said, guys, this is a reaction part of the video. So, shout out to these guys, and thank you for posting good content.
They can double the business without doubling their expenses. So even with low margin, if most of it is calls at 5% and a small percent is text messages at 20%, well, as they double, their expenses didn't double. The overhead kind of stayed the same. So the operating expenses, I tracked that. You probably see my charts there. The operating expenses as a percent of revenue are not going up. They're not. Their expenses are not going through the roof because of this growth. So it's kind of an economies of scale. It's like Amazon. Jeff Bezos explained. He said, we're losing money, but given a certain level of volume, we will be profitable at higher and higher and higher volume.
Right, and I think that's very important to understand. Like once again, combating some of the bearish outlooks when they're like, "Oh, but the debt this and but the debt that." When he explains it well. Like he explains it well. I'm gonna let him speak. I'm gonna try not to talk too much.
We're losing money, but given a certain level of volume, we will be profitable at higher and higher and higher volume. Above that will be more and more profit. We just have to reach the point of covering our overhead, and that's where iQST is at. They buy these subsidiaries that have a little bit of profit, and that profit hasn't covered iQST, the parent company's overhead, but they're crossing over into that portion where it does.
And what you just nailed, see, that is an issue that people have brought up time and time again. They've tried to say that iQST is just buying growth. So you spend 50 million to grow 50 million, well, you break even. And that's only right at face value. But like you just said, when you go a little bit deeper into the situation, you have a breaking point where you get to a certain level and your growth doesn't continue to cost you. So then at that point, once you turn that corner, you're growing and growing and growing. And thank you for bringing up Amazon, because that is the perfect example. Anybody can go back and we can look at Jeff Bezos' old quote where he talked about that, where all the metrics behind the scenes were improving day by day. Everything was just skyrocketing. But then you look at the share price and it's nosediving down and down and down. And it's like you can almost layer that with iQST. It's doing the same thing. And it annoys every single one of us. Like, none of us are happy about the share price going down, sure. But at the same time, when you have such drastic growth and you can actually see what's going on behind the scenes, that should give everybody a little bit of peace of mind. The reality is they are in no threat of going bankrupt or having anything wrong. All they are doing is improving.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I want to clarify, a lot of people get upset when you mention Amazon or Netflix or anything like that. And it's like, look, we're not saying this is the next Amazon. We're saying that, people freak out, why is the share price down? And it's like, well, look at Amazon. Everyone knows that company. And the period you were talking about, Amazon crashed 98% from its high. There's a historic interview of Jeff Bezos explaining exactly that. But yeah, the stock's down about 98%. But during that period, everything inside the business has continued to get better. All of the metrics you look at, the company is doing better.
And I'm just going to emphasize that once again too, right? Because essentially that's literally what ended up happening with the stock. Is it ended up crashing an exponential amount. Right? But within this time period of consolidation, I mean, like I said, if you were holding from here even till now, it's probably a rough time. It was probably a rough time. You had to really, really have a whole lot of conviction. Otherwise, you would have probably sold out, right? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't necessarily see it being a bad thing that some people sold out, because a lot of people are going to say, like, oh, I'll get back in when it looks like it's about to go up, just because I'll be able to leverage my money other ways. Fine, that's cool, right? But once again, to emphasize what he's using as the Amazon, reference, is that from here to here, they were constantly improving everything that was wrong with the company. They were sitting there fixing, working, right? So I really like to see that as we sit there and really think about why the stock's price is down and why the movement is where it's at. The company was more focused on getting their fundamentals correct instead of their share price correct. And eventually, literally, we'll see the share price correct and move forward, as that's the last step left. They've gotten everything else. Now we just need to see the share price actually meet up with what they have going on, right? And I think valuations are always interesting, because when people start to look at the fundamentals, a lot of the times, I'll use Rigetti and quantum computing, for example. They'll start to talk about how overvalued it is. And when you look at the specifics of a stock in the financials, and people are like, it's so overvalued and this and this and that. And, it's just very interesting to truly realize that the valuations are never quite right when you're using numbers. When you look at Rigetti should probably be around like $2-3, right? If you're using a valuation, but it's sitting at $20 right now as I speak, knock on wood that it stays up. But it's just like, it's very interesting to sit there and use valuations, and it's very interesting to sit there and use Rigetti, and it's very interesting to sit there and use Amazon as examples when we're referring to stock prices.
And better, and the share price just kept going down and down and down. And that happened to Amazon. That happens to Fortune 500 companies. That happens to all kinds of companies. There's like the stock market is not a perfect scenario where the stock directly correlates with company performance. The stock market's fucking crazy. Shit's all over the place. And Amazon's just a good example of a well-known company whose stock crashed 98% while the company was improving, and look what happened long term. You know, if you do that long enough, eventually the share price will correct.
There you go. And that's kind of what we've said is when you do this in the long term, eventually it will get there. But man, we all know it's very annoying in the meantime while you're waiting for that to happen. But yeah, we use Amazon because what other examples do people want us to use? Like that's the most relevant one that people can understand. And that's kind of the key here because a lot of people don't do this all the time. They just look at a chart and they think that that's investing. But that's the thing is we need to have things that people can associate with so they understand what we're trying to say here.
Yeah, exactly. And back to your point about just buying growth and buying revenue and profits and stuff, you know, I posted earlier today, it's been a while since I've made a video, but I'm stay pretty active on boards, you know that. You know, they did make an acquisition this year. They bought iQSTEL, but their 101% growth, the vast majority of that isn't even from iQSTEL, the acquisition. iQSTEL this year is going to add $60 million in revenue from the acquisition.
It's organic.
Yeah, the rest of it's all organic. They're gonna add $60 million from buying iQSTEL. There's another $85.5 million in organic growth on top of that just from cross-selling. So it's nothing. The acquisition isn't even half of this year's growth. And iQSTEL, you saw the quarterly report, man. They were only supposed to add $20 million a quarter. In Q2, the very first quarter that we owned them, they did $31.5 million. That's over 50% growth immediately after being acquired. So, yeah, it's not buying growth. It's buying the right opportunities. They're very, very strategic about identifying companies that complement the rest of their services that allow them to expand and cross-sell and drive that level of organic growth. So they're not out there buying revenue. They're very strategic about who they acquire, and that is what I consider the secret sauce. Anybody can buy a company and add revenue, but buying one that can complement all of your other subsidiaries so everybody grows together and drives another $85 million in growth, that's what you look for. That's what I love. That's what iQST is really, really good at, like I've never seen from another company, man.
Yeah, no, you know, we could brag on that all the time. And we would be right to, because I truly do not think that they get enough credit for how good of a job they have done with so little amount of funds or so little amount of just extra cash. You know, and that's why people bring up the NASDAQ so much, because of course the available money that you would have at that point, whether it's through a bond or through a loan, if they actually had 20 or 30 million cash to work with, they would be $1 billion company next year. It's just you look at the way that they've strategically implemented things under their iQSTEL banner and then drastically grown those things. It's fantastic. And you cannot look to other companies that have done anything like that. It's just they're an anomaly, I feel. And you know, correct me if you think I'm being bogus here, but I just think they don't get enough credit for that. And I wish the narrative could kind of shift to pointing out how great of a job they have done with such a small amount of money to work with. Because I continue to look to that. When they have a drastic amount of money to work with, this thing will be supercharged. I mean, at that point, you can incorporate all kinds of new things that can really begin the profits and the free cash flow. And that's what I've been saying for a while, is once that free cash flow begins, you have a whole different company. And I think we're very close to that point.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, like you mentioned about doing so much with so little, and this iQSTEL acquisition, you know, you remember prior to this year, their biggest acquisition, they never even acquired a company doing $10 million a year. That was it. One of them was doing about $7 million, give or take. And then here they are out of nowhere, acquired iQSTEL doing just over.
And keep in mind, guys, going back kind of to the document that we were looking at earlier. Granted, they were being just extremely bullish on like the kinds of companies that they did want to acquire. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it really quickly. But when they're saying this acquisition plan includes an initiative to expand the annual sales of 500 million, right? And they're mentioning iQSTEL has targeted a specific acquisition opportunity with the potential to add 200 million to 300 million. When you look at iQSTEL adding on $60 million, when we're talking about these numbers right here, and keep in mind this is 2025. Right, 2025. When we're looking at these numbers right here, it's going to make iQSTEL look small. And if iQSTEL looks small with all the revenue and stuff that we're already having, all the revenue that we're already having increasing, you know, it's very interesting to sit here and really process some of these numbers. It's just really interesting, guys. I'm just saying it's getting really interesting. I'm just going to leave it there. Like I said, this is going to be more of a consolidation. I already talked a lot. I'm going to try not to talk as much because then this video might end up being 5 hours. But I really did want to try to condense, like I said, a lot of the good information into one video because I really just enjoy doing this. This is not financial advice whatsoever, but for the people who do like to research and the people who do like iQST, you know, I think it'd be really cool, even if Mr. Boilermaster himself or if any of the iQST staff were to watch this, that would just be honestly a dream come true and all that I ask from you guys. So if you like it, please just leave a like and just leave a comment because it's just helping a young kid's dream come true of being able to do some great due diligence for you guys. So
80 million a year. I remember how fucking excited we were when that came out. It was like unbelievable. How are they even pulling that off? And what I want to get to, the point here is, we started the year out at a 16-cent share price. They acquired QXTEL. QXTEL has already demonstrated over 50% growth since being acquired, and we are right back at the same share price we were when we started the year. The market has priced in absolutely no value whatsoever for the acquisition or growing its revenue 50%.
right, but I just think it's funny, right? They get a $60 million partnership and the market just does not care, guys. And I think that's why I said this really could potentially end up being like a super long-term play because the market's just not reacting. And once again, I think it does have a lot to do with the actual marketing aspect of everything. But I just think it's funny that we could really see that $200 million to $500 million partnership, whatever, right? Or even like 50 million is still amazing for iQST. But I just think it's very funny that we could see those partnerships and we could still see a 32-cent share price. So I just think that was pretty funny to just throw in there as well.
And it's so goofy, and that's what you said. The market is not a perfect machine. It's not a perfect instrument. It gets it wrong all the time. And like the thing is, I believe there is about 20,000 shareholders in the company. Well, okay, the price is down. So whether there's nefarious entities shorting it down, or it's just people getting out because they're trading it, either way, they've not priced in the gigantic acquisition that happened, and there's probably more right around the corner. So it just makes me wonder, how are people not getting it? How are they not seeing it? And at the same time, like, what's the communication barrier to help them understand what's actually going on and why it's so close? Like, I invested in it about 4 years ago, and if there was ever a time for me to be excited and doing cartwheels and backflips everywhere I walk, it would be right now. Like, they're on the precipice of doing gigantic stuff. I mean, and you can make the argument they do $500 million next year, like almost on organic growth alone, but just incorporating iQSTEL and just their own organic growth. You could feasibly.
And like I said, guys, this is organic growth, not incorporating any of the other side ventures that they have that can potentially do some numbers, right? And this is by 2027. It's 2025, 2 years. Now, this could either mean that we have 2 years to see $2, which I just don't think is accurate. I think at the longest we see another year of holding, which I am perfectly okay with. But I do think we're going to start to see a lot of movement within 2025 compared to a lot of the other years that a lot of the shareholders were having experience, which is what he's talking about now. But he's really emphasizing that as a 4-year shareholder, as somebody that's been able to see, the news pass and go, his feelings pass and go, being able to see the interviews with the CEOs pass and go. Why? And keep in mind, this is 2 months ago. So it's only been building on since then, right? But why he's so happy now, and he's going to go into that, but it's just iQST is finally moving. The volume is finally increasing. It's finally starting to showcase itself. We haven't seen volume like this since 2021, and around 2021 is when we saw that $1 stock price, guys. So I just want to re-throw that out there as well.
We see $500 million next year without acquisitions. So it's like, what are people missing? Why do we see this, that so many people are missing this?
And sorry, I gotta re-emphasize that without acquisitions, guys. But they plan to add on acquisitions. And I like to re-emphasize it once again that iQST has a fun history of surpassing their financial projections. It's just like a little fun game that they like to do with their shareholders that they've been doing for years on years on years. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, they like to play this game and they plan to continue playing this game, then them even potentially surpassing 1 billion by 2027 is a strong possibility. If next year is planned, right, as in 2026, low-key, actually, forgive me, I think in this video, technically next year for them is 2025. So if we're planning to see $500 million in 2025, not including an acquisition, allowing 2026 to potentially be the $1 billion year if they keep growing at the same rate that they're growing at, seeing 2027 be like a $1.5 billion year. You see what I'm saying? So obviously, this is all speculation. I'm just a kid. What do I know, right? That's one of my favorite sayings. But when I'm analyzing the stock and I'm analyzing some of the constant trends that they do have, listening to some of these longer shareholders and, getting their expertise and advice, I think this is definitely a cool thing to, pay attention to when we're listening and looking at some things.
So, talking about this long message boards too, man. I personally think that it's not necessarily people are missing it. The guys like you and I get it. We talk to shareholders every single day. That I talk about stock with so many people message me about it. We all seem to get it, but we've all been around a long time. We've been at 20,000 shareholders for a long time. The guys like you and I, we've loaded up on shares for years. So when news like this comes out, we're not diving out to buy another 100,000. We've got a ton of shares already, and we're just, for me at least, I'm still just averaging in some regular buys in small amounts, just continuing to build. When big news drops, I'm excited, but it's not that often I rush out and buy another 50 or 100,000 shares because I'm already loaded up, and they're not reaching those new shareholders that haven't heard about this, that have not loaded up. So the longs, great news, but we've already got our shares, and so I think the vast majority of the volume, the trading volume on a daily basis, just continues to be day traders and short-term swing traders that are just playing the charts. Good news comes out and they're like, oh, cool, maybe I can make a 5 or 8% profit on a swing or something. They're looking at support and resistance levels, and the stock after iQSTEL, it went up to 39, rejected off of that, and then it just hit a very blatantly clear and obvious downtrend, and it stayed in that, and it just played out on that exact chart pattern for like 6 months straight. It just continued in the pattern, and I think it's just all the volume is coming from day traders. They're not reaching new investors.
And that's my thing. That's where I want to come in with that is how do you either reach new investors or invigorate your base? So I just mentioned there's 20,000 shareholders. We also know there is 185 million shares outstanding. You take that 185 million, divide it by the 20,000 shareholders, that's 9,000 shares.
And I'm just going to pause it real quick, and I'm going to go back to emphasize that this is kind of like an important part. So like just follow along with his numbers because Shane explains it very perfectly. With 20,000 shareholders, we don't need much more, which is another reason why I'm emphasizing that it's okay to have the stock on your watch list, but why I would be really considering getting in soon is going to be also what he explains now. It's pretty much any moment.
Come in with that is how do you either reach new investors or invigorate your base? So I just mentioned there's 20,000 shareholders. We also know there is 185 million shares outstanding. You take that 185 million, divide it by the 20,000 shareholders, that's 9,000 shares per person. Now, of course, we know some people have way more, some people have way less. But if you take that base, and I firmly believe this, we already have the people that we could spike this thing up in a very big way and really drive it up. But investor sentiment has been beaten down so much. But that's the thing they realize. There are a lot of people in this stock. If they all turn the other direction and just started buying some, like I said, again, over 20,000 people, that's 9,000 shares apiece split evenly. It does not take very much amongst all of those people to get this share price up in a very big way. And I wish people could see that, because what's going to happen when 5,000 more people come in, or let's say maybe 10,000 more people, and they all want...
And once again, that is going to be very important, right? Investor sentiment has been beaten down. I mean, who would want to invest in the stock when you look at the charts and this is all it's done? It's not going to be very attractive. And then when I click on the website, and this is what I see, this isn't very attractive, right? I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to marry this one. It's what it comes to until you see this. And so I'm really emphasizing what he's saying because I completely agree. Like, I think Shane and Boiler Master did an amazing job within this video.
A couple hundred or a couple thousand shares a piece. It becomes very easy. Like right now, you've got what feels like all this supply and no demand for it. But that can change very fast, because what I want people to understand is 185 million shares is not very many. We know there's a couple guys out there who have a few million themselves. You know, some of us on this call may have a million or so. So it's like there aren't truly that many shares out there, and I wish people would realize that. Should you ever get in an institution that wants 1, 2, 3, 5 million shares, there becomes a fight for these shares, and people don't want it at 15 and 16 cents, but ironically, they're going to buy it at 50 and 60 cents when it breaks through resistance.
I agree 100%, and it's like we say, buying begets buying. The moment it starts.
And they're going to speak on it as well, but this is another reason why I'm like, okay, let's genuinely take a second and think about getting in now, because Most people when they're seeing it at this price, they're like, no, excuse, until it gets to that 50, 60 cents mark. Now everybody's looking at it. And then from 50 to 60 cents, it's going parabolic and it's like chilling at $1, $3, $4, whatever, right? I mean, this is obviously kind of an exaggeration, but for those of you who have been following me and know, I did a video on OPTT. I did a video also on LODE, right? And these aren't the best examples, but I'll use OPTT. We saw that one go from 70 cents to $1 in about 3 days, and it's found its support around $1 to 90 cents, right? We haven't really seen it go back down. So it went from like, actually, no, I want to say it wasn't even 70 cents. I want to say it was 50 cents, if I remember correctly. It had been on my watch list, at least personally, from 50 cents, right? It was stuck at 50 cents for such a long time. You saw it skyrocket now to $1. Now it's just chilling at $1. But it's just very interesting to sit there and see how quickly these penny stocks essentially can move when shorts start coming in, when new retail investors start coming in. Because even though OPTT went up even more than what it's at now, technically, right? The shorts eventually left the stock. But even though the shorts left the stock, the support level is now higher because there's some more holders within it. There's some more people that are actually interested within the company. A lot of people got into OPTT because they just wanted short, quick money. But then a lot of people ended up falling in love with the company once they genuinely understood what it was. And now they're bullish, and now there's a lot more people within the community. Now they're talking about earnings coming out in March, and the fact that they even know when earnings are is just proving that there's a lot more backing behind the stock itself. And if we can see this for iQST, and I think we will, right? It's going to be very interesting. But another reason why I'm emphasizing, hey, if you are thinking about getting it now, it'd be a great time, because essentially, like, let's say it does take more of an LOD route where it goes all the way up to $1 and passes $1, hits resistance around that area too and tanks all the way back down to quote unquote 67 cents for the time that I'm speaking. If you're bought in at 30 cents, if you bought in at 16 cents, everything is essentially still okay, right? Because you're still technically in the profit area. I have a lot more wiggle room to hold. I didn't sit there and I didn't FOMO in and buy at that 90 cents. If you sat there and you bought in at that 90 cents instead of buying in at that 30, 50, even 50 cent mark, it's going to be a lot harder for you to have as much conviction and hold versus someone like Boilermaster Shane and I who are buying it now. It's going to be a lot easier for us to sit there, watch the stock go parabolic up to $1, then go back to 67 cents, be A-okay, be able to wait a couple extra months for it to hit $2, right? When everybody forgets about it and the shorts are out and it's just constantly slowly growing, because we bought at 30 cents and we're making amazing gains, right? And that's another reason why I'm just kind of emphasize that this is not financial advice, right, guys? But why I'm emphasizing why I personally decided to get in now instead of waiting. And even as I make this time of the video, I feel as though I'm late. So it's just another perspective as well.
Resistance.
Well, I agree 100%. And it's like we say, buying big ass buying. The moment it starts back in an uptrend and it's just trending up based on charts, like it was trending down based on charts, everyone's going to think it's the greatest thing ever. The sentiment on the board will be bullish. Everybody be happy and buying more. While we're sitting here going, hey man, the company was doing great. We were buying at the bottom. But when they see the stock price going up, they'll think it's a great company again and they'll start buying. So
Right.
to each their own. But I don't know, man. It's 3 years now. We've been talking about this company for a long time. And we've had the same message for a long time. If they continue improving the company, sooner or later the share price will react. And as we say, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. And this is truly one of those scenarios that's testing a lot of people. A lot of people are wanting to give up because of it, because it feels like it's never going to correct, because it's been 3 years. We've been sitting around a 30 million market cap all of 2022, 2023.
I apologize, guys. It's gonna be a long video. We're like halfway through.
2024. That's where we closed. I don't know where we're going to close 2024, but we're about 30 million market cap now, and 3 years worth of growth, going from like 65 million in revenue to pushing 300 million in sales, and improving the bottom line from losing 5 or 8 million, whatever it was back then, to we're on and around break even, crossing into profitability. On top of that, 5 times your revenue growth, and we're still at the same market cap. It is definitely taking a while to react and trying a lot of people's patience. I'll give it that.
Well, and with that is take that a step further. Okay, what if you go 3 years in the future when they're probably going to be doing $1 billion revenue? The profits would be so high at that point, you'd probably have 30, 40 million worth of free cash flow by that point. If the market cap is still 30 million, you can damn near buy back the entire shares outstanding at that point. So that's the thing I want people to realize. Although it's very daunting and annoying right now, within a time span of just a couple of years, that will drastically change because they get so gigantic. They have shown us nothing that indicates the growth is going to slow down. So even if you do 50% minimum in the coming years, you're still at $1 billion by 2027. But here's the thing, what comes after that? Because they're so big, the growth can truly continue because then they will have more funds available to acquire all the small companies under their banner they can. They can also buy mid-sized companies at that point, which can continue 50% growth every year. You are not going to have a 40 million market cap in the coming years. I don't know that you'll even have a 40 million market cap next year. I think you may be looking closer to 400 million market cap, which is closer to a fair value.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you know, that's one of the things I love about this being a holdings company is 2027 their target's to hit $1 billion, and that's not going to be a plateau. This is a holdings company. They
Right.
get into the billions in telecom, and that's where we start seeing that growth being driven in the other non-telecom subsidiaries. They're already starting off in multiple industries. They're developing those, and when they're doing billions of dollars a year, they can acquire anybody they want. They can get into any high growth industry that they want to get into, and they're going to have those options. And like you said about the profits, is you're absolutely right. There is a timeline on this. The market, it can only stay irrational for so long because they will reach that point that some of those things that will become options on the table. You know, I see on message board, people demand a stock buyback right now, and it's like, well, they
can afford that. Yeah. They're still paying off iQSTEL. They cannot afford that yet. But there will come a time.
It will be an option. You give them a year or two, and all of a sudden those options show up. When you can take $2 million worth of your profits and just throw it towards stock buybacks, you will drive the price higher.
And keep in mind that the CFO is actually going to speak on this later into the video. He's actually going to specifically directly mention stock buyback. So once again, guys, bear with me. I know this video is long. Feel free to take a break, rewatch it a couple times, come back. Because like I said, this might be information overload, but I just wanted to incorporate one solid video with as much information as I could. But yeah, just stay tuned, guys. We'll have him actually speak about this.
You can take $2 million and say, you know what, declare a special dividend. You will drive the price higher. Those are not options today, but they will be in the near future. And that's why I say, you know what, we're close. The light is at the end of the tunnel. No matter how the market reacts, a year or so's time frame, they're going to have 10 times the options that they have today to actually do something and force the market to react.
Exactly. And when you have that, you kind of have a way to double that effect, because whoever is shorting the stock, and there are people here and there that are doing that, but when you suddenly have the fear that the company can buy back shares on you, that then makes them unwind their position or not even have one. Like, it creates a lot of doubt in people, whereas now there's not a whole lot the company can do to fight back other than try to just get retail to buy. And that's the thing I wish retail would understand, is like, right now people are just running the board on the stock, but it wouldn't take a lot to stop them from trying to drive it down and just knocking it down penny at a time. It's, again, there's truly not that many shares out there that can be maneuvered because so many of us are just holding the shares. Like, a lot of times I think there's only a couple million that are just floating out there regularly. And sometimes longs kind of get rid of a few, but it wouldn't take much to just lock those up.
Yeah, and like you're talking about, the average volume, it's around 300,000 shares a day. At this price, it's not even $50,000 in trades. You know, they're doing all these investor conferences and roadshows and meeting with institutional investors and banks and stuff. And if one of them gets on board and says, you know, I want to invest $1 million in this company and just start picking up shares, it would literally take months to acquire that when the volume's only 50 grand a day, because what can you pick up without just driving the price higher? You know,
right.
Maybe you could slide 10, 15,000 in, be a very strategic, waiting on bigger sell orders to show up just to buy specific orders. But you can't just throw 100 grand in the company every day. You buy $100,000 worth of stock, you're going to drive it up 20, 30% because there's just not $100,000 worth of shares up for sale on any given day.
Exactly. And that's the kind of thing that I wish people would understand, because it's like, I'm not trying to fool people here and give them false hope. It's just, when you see it for what it is, that's the reality of it. This price can move very easily. It just takes a small spark to ignite that flame. Yeah. And that's you come in and buy $100,000 worth of stock, and it shoots this thing up 40, 50%. And it's like, what happens if you have multiple people, say they go to one of these conferences, you get a couple people who are interested, not even just one, get a couple different ones, maybe get a couple real big ones. It can change the dynamic of everything very, very quickly. And I hope people keep that in mind when they're kind of evaluating this entire situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so with the shares, just you and I watch it, we see it every day, and we look at the order flow and what's out there on trades, and you can't get a large sum of shares unless it's at support or resistance levels. You push it up to support, yes, some bigger orders come in. Some of the traders and swing traders and stuff see that, and when you're testing up towards resistance levels, the guys that think it's going to reject will place some larger orders there, and you'll be able to accumulate a larger amount of those levels. But this intraday trading, just staying where we're at, 16, 17, 18 cents, just bouncing around here. There's just not that many orders coming in that are more than 20, 30,000 shares. We get them once in a while, but it's not that many. It's when you're at key levels like 39 and a half cents where you saw some 300,000 share orders come through. So if somebody wants to come in and pick up $1 million worth of stock, being I don't know 4, 5, 6 million shares, they're going to have to push it at least to those resistance levels to get anything close to what they're trying to buy.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that.
We know what they're doing to bring the institutions in. They're doing the investor roadshows. They're out there in front of them. They're meeting them. They're doing the presentations. They're really working their asses off trying to get there, which is not easy to accomplish. It takes time, and it could happen tomorrow. It could be happening right now, somebody accumulating behind the scenes, or it may not happen for a year. We don't know. It's not easy to get institutions to invest in OTC companies, but what I want to know is what this new marketing firm is going to do for them that helps get awareness out there and spreads word to more just regular retail investors. We got 20,000. Most of them are not active. We know they're just holding some shares, and there's not 20,000 people on message boards or anything like that. But how do we get word out there and get there's I don't know how many millions of investors in the U.S. We're not getting our name out there to them. That's probably a question we need to get with Leo and Brad on and just say, hey, what all does this partnership entail? What are they going to do for us aside from helping with the rebranding and things like that?
Yeah, those are definitely details that could help us all kind of as we're breaking this stuff down and figuring out what some of these new PRs are going to directly do. And I agree 100% with that. You touched on something about how, that could be going on behind the scenes.
And I'm going to just re-emphasize that. I think that's something that we genuinely need to see as well. I started the video off saying that marketing right now for the company, I feel like, is not the best. I definitely want to see a lot from Honor. Now, I do feel like, I do like the CEO was saying. I do like that he mentioned them within the interview. But I definitely do want to see what the company is actually going to look like when they have better marketing, when they have their website updated, when they have a lot of these key indicators besides their LinkedIn, right, updated. Like they still have Twitter, the word tweeter actually, right, with 2 E's. I don't even know what that means, honestly, on their website, right? We should at least be seeing things like X, whatever. But I just think it's going to be really interesting to see this company when we finally get to a point where they have their marketing initiatives actually well put together.
Right now, with as far as how to reach new investors or institutions, I think back to how silent everything was right before the iQSTEL partnership was announced. And at the same time, other than this past week, things have been very, very quiet. And just from the company kind of keeping the monthly revenues hush-hush and everything else that we've seen, it makes me ponder if there is something large that is going on. And there's a lot to be excited about, and I just hope people feel the same way, and they kind of know that this stuff was a much bigger deal than just at the surface level. Like the partnership with the cybersecurity company, that's a very big deal. And just to understand like how that can drastically improve the business metrics, there's a lot to be happy about here. And, I get it, we're all upset when the share price goes down, sure, but that's all going to change very soon. Things are ebbs and flows. We've seen this play out all the time. The bad days end eventually, and then you have good ones. And we're almost to the other side, not only on the share price, but also on the company turning to a new level. So that's my thoughts on it all, man. There's a lot to be really enthused about here, and I just hope people kind of feel that way.
Yeah,
here's a simple trading.
You know me, I don't care so much about what the stock does on a daily basis. I want to know what the company is doing because I want to know where things are going to be 1 year, 3 year, 5 years from now. We all love money, and if it runs next year, cool, that's great. But I'm not looking for a quick profit for 50 cents or a dollar or something. I'm looking for an uplist to NASDAQ, and I'm looking for tens of dollars over the next decade or so. Because as long as this company continues expanding into new industries and growing double digits.
And I know I'm moving the screen around a lot, but I hope you guys are really listening to what Shane's saying. I mean, people love to talk about price targets, and a lot of people's targets are going to be $2. But when you're buying in now, you're really buying in now. and you don't mind waiting, me personally, I would not mind waiting honestly until $8 to sell this bad boy. I would not mind. Like, yeah, I'm probably gonna take some profits along the way. Yeah, whatever, sure. But he's gonna go into, as long as I keep seeing this, as long as I keep seeing these charts, I'm holding. It's as simple as that. What is my price target? My price target is this. If the charts look like this, I'm holding. Simple as that.
Every single year, I look for this to be a company like that, a worldwide, nationally, everybody knows holding company a decade or so from now. Unless growth drops down into the single digits, I'm planning on holding a good portion of my position until that day comes. When this company plateaus, sure, maybe I'll start looking around and saying, let's reposition some things. But as long as they're growing 55, 100% a year and stuff, I have no desire to offload my position, because if it was at fair value last year, well, the company doubled in size this year. If it were at fair value this year, are they going to double in size next year and fair value was double? I mean, you get it. You're a long-term investor. You do dividends and things like that. You get exactly what I'm saying. With that company value, you can project out and see what the underlying value of the company is going to do and what it has been doing over the last 5 years. So I'm not concerned about share price. I'm concerned about the underlying value, and that continues to drastically improve every single year that goes by. So I'm happy.
That's exactly where it is for me. And I've said that on some message boards before, is, you know, if I'm getting 10% return in my dividend stock per year, but iQST continues to grow its business more than 10% a year, there's literally no reason that I would sell anytime, whether it's $1, $5, $7, it doesn't matter. If their business is continuing to grow at a higher level than my dividend stocks can return me, it doesn't make sense. And as you said, if they finally slow down to a point when they're only getting 3% growth per year, well, then you look to reposition. But again, this is the kind of thing where you can't continue to grow at the level that they are and not get there eventually. It will happen. And in my case, it's looking like, you know, maybe it's another year, maybe it's another 3 years. I don't know. I don't have a magical crystal ball. But that's the reality of it. It's going to get there eventually. It's just how long. You got a lottery ticket. You just don't know when your number's getting called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The longer it takes, we've explained this to people, the longer it takes, the higher the underlying value is. If you say 1x sale, one time sales right now, that's going to be what, over $1.50. You know, one time sales next year is going to be over $2. One time sales 2 years, 3 years from now is going to be $3, $4, $5 a share. If it runs now, maybe it goes to $1.50, $2. If it runs next year, maybe it goes to $3.50. If it runs in 2027, maybe it goes to $5 or $8 or $10. You know, the longer this takes, the more valuable the company is by any valuation metrics you look at. You can't look at the financials and look at any valuation whatsoever without acknowledging and saying, yes, the underlying value does go higher every single year. So the longer it stays pushed down at a $30 million market cap, the higher that gap is between current value and underlying fair market value.
And I think that's very important, guys. Like, if this revenue keeps up and it keeps going like this, which I think it genuinely can't. I mean, if they're trying to hit the NASDAQ uplisting before 2027, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to stay at that 30 million market cap. I genuinely don't think it's going to. But the longer it does, the more I benefit, which is why I'm trying to buy as much as possible now, is because being able to buy it at such a discount and being able to load up on so many shares at such a discount, it's just benefiting me. Because it's going to get there, like you said. It's like holding a lottery ticket, and you don't know when your numbers are going to get called, but they're going to get called, guys. You just have to be patient. And I don't even think you have to be patient, honestly. I think it's a matter of time.
And the bigger that gap gets, when it does correct, the higher it will run. It's not like if 3 years ago you thought it was worth $1. Today you're sitting here going, wow, I still think it's worth $1. If you thought it was worth $1 3 years ago, you ought to think it's worth about $3 now. And so,
Yep.
Does that make sense, man?
Yeah, it's, you know, and again, I just hope people can see that too and have good conviction in it. And you may not always agree with what the company's doing. You might not always be happy about it, but at the same time, it's difficult to not be happy with what the company's doing as far as growing their business, because eventually that growth gets so gigantic, it cannot be stopped. And that's always a little bit of solace that we can have here to keep us happy with things. It's going to get there. It's okay. You know, the share price.
Right, I think they did a really, really great job of explaining it. So I wanted to make sure I included that video. Unfortunately, what I just realized is I sat there and I timestamped this entire video. And I'm glad that he put it in here, right? And we're still going to go through it, unfortunately. But it's going to be a little bit more choppy than what I would like, because it did cut me off. But we're going to start right here. And like I said, guys, this video is going to be a super long one, but I think it's very important. for me to really emphasize this company and why I'm bullish and all the information that I was able to find out and know to put it in there for people to watch. So let's get into it.
And I'll be honest, what you do with LifeChain Discord revenue comes from the telecommunications division. It's probably one of your divisions I know the least amount about. And I think that just comes from us like retail investors. We don't understand the telecom.
We're going to go right here.
Most people trade all day. I only need 20.
And like I said, guys, it's going to be a little bit choppy. So just bear with me. Thank you for everybody that's still listening, making kids' dream come true. So thank you.
That's correct. That's the amount
Thank you.
nowadays of SMS per quarter. That's the amount of, yep, that's correct.
Right.
We are handling nowadays.
To recap that, you just said 1 billion minutes per quarter?
Yep, that's correct. That's the amount of traffic that we handle.
To put it in simple words, when someone in the U.S. That had a phone line with Sprint or AT&T wants to make an international phone call to Spain or to some countries in Latin America, what we do is that we connect we handle the international leg of that call. So we make possible for that call to connect two people, one located in the U.S. and another one located in Spain or in Argentina or in El Salvador or in China or whatever. So that's basically what we provide. That's the kind of service. So we don't have end user customers. We just have companies like other telecom companies, mobile telecom companies around the globe, because we have employees in Australia, in Europe, in Middle East, in Latin America, in the US. So if you go from that Australia to the ones that we have in the West Coast in the US, we cover almost 22 hours of the
day.
And you were curious about the US. 1/3 of our revenue is related to traffic, voice and SMS terminated in the US. So we have a huge presence in
I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. I know I kind of jumped in here. He's pretty much just explaining what the company does and how they make the profits off of the telecommunication companies, and including some key statistics and metrics as it pertains to the industry that they're in.
The US, in the telecom business.
Okay. I kind of want to just stay on topic of each division here. I've got questions that kind of bounce all over the place, so we may come back to this at some point, but I'm trying to keep them all focused because we're talking about your telecommunications division right now. I know you said you achieved full-fledged profitability as of the third quarter of last year, but for you guys producing such a record amount of revenue, why did it take so long to reach that profitability? And what do you think that profitability curve is going to look like going in the future now that you have achieved it?
One of the things that we have been doing for past years is growing the company. I'm very focused on growing the company and produce like critic mass of business to generate revenue. Nowadays, we are working more in synergies. We're working more in reducing costs. And this is the reason why, even including the expenses that we have in the POCO, we produce profitability. But, this is a trend that we started in mid of the last year, and we plan to keep this year and growing. That's, in fact, our next step is to produce at least $500,000 per quarter in operating income. So that's basically our next step. And we feel really comfortable that this year we are going to have more than 7 digits of operating income end of the year. So we are really happy. We have turned the corner.
More than comfortable, guys. Woohoo!
In the process to become a profitable company. And this is the new age of iQSTEL that we are living on.
Okay, and right now you think, if you had to throw a percentage at it, what percentage do you think of your revenue is coming from just the telecommunications division?
99.
To be honest, yeah, I don't know. Go on.
Today is 99%.
That's why I got
There's
that thing from
small
earlier.
amount coming from the IoT devices, but basically everything today is coming from the telecom business, because the Fintech and the EV division and the metaverse division are in a pre-revenue stage right now. So.
But this is part of our strategy, and this is important to remark, because around a year and a half ago, we decided to focus on our telecom division, that is our day-to-day business, and we are expert in that business, and to create enough profit before to start, burning money and in other things, and let's be focused on what we know very well, produce enough money, and this money we can use for invest in other divisions instead to keep diluting the company to raise funds in the company. So, and this is
Once again, that's very important. They are not interested in diluting the company. Just keep that in mind. So for all the people that you hear that keep saying share price dilution, reverse stock split, whatever, they're not interested in doing that. Like, I feel like that's very important to understand.
is why right now we still have around 170 something million outstanding shares. Even we have 7 years in the market, and we raised around $20 million from investors. So we have a pretty good amount of outstanding shares ratio between the amount of shares and the revenue that we are producing.
That was one of the first things that actually turned me onto your company was your financial responsibility that I've seen. I've spent the last decade of my life managing multi-million-dollar companies, and I really liked your company's growth curve of how, like you said at the beginning, you started as a $7.5 million revenue company, and now you're going to do $250 million a year in revenue. That's an incredible growth curve. And then I've seen for the longest time, you guys had no toxic debt, and I have not seen you be one of the heavy diluters. A lot of the times in the OTC market, you see a lot of these penny stocks that just dilute once or twice a year, and I don't see you guys do that. So that is one of the things I wanted to remark real quickly that I really liked about your company and why I chose to invest so many years ago is I didn't think I'd be diluted all the time. Now, and I think that probably bit into your profitability a little bit because you've just been so focused on acquisitions and growing and reinvesting a lot of your money. Does that sound pretty much right?
It's correct, but let me tell you something. To be honest with you, the credit of managing every cent in the company, very conservative and very focused on the business and do not spend money in things that are not related with the productivity is Mr. CFO Alvaro. Alvaro is the wizard behind this strategy. So
thanks, Leandro. But Mike, Leandro and I are the biggest shareholder in the company. If you see by individuals and
and I'm gonna pause that right there too, just so we can emphasize, like, he's not just saying this to say this. Like, these guys have some heavy positions in iQST. Like, I mean, it's nothing too crazy. I mean, I'm saying that like it's not 5 million worth of shares, right? But they're not just saying this to say this. Like, this is public information, right? How many shares they own. And this one is a relatively recent article, if I remember correctly as well. This one was December 27th, 2024. So it's not like they're just sitting here saying this for no reason. Like a stock dilution would hurt them as well. Like, this is important. All right, them keeping the share price up and getting it up is important for them as well if they truly want to make money.
Every acquisition and with every financing that we have taken for closing those acquisitions or the money we raise from the Reg A or the S1 has been invested very carefully. And every time we do an acquisition, even if there is a small dilution for the financing we have got to close that acquisition, we have increased the net shareholders' equity in the company and the value for each share. So we have been focused on create value for all the shareholders and increase the what we call Leandro, we have a name for that we use between us. The operating value of the company, not only the share value of the local market.
Business value.
We are
always thinking how can we increase the business value of the company, and basically the idea, Mike, to be honest, we have a long run vision in the company, and this is the reason why we are not selling shares. We have all of our shares locked up in the preferred, and basically our vision is whatever decision we take is thinking in first stage is what is the best for the company in long run, and the second step, what is the best for all the shareholders. Because if we protect the shareholders and we protect the company, everything will be fine at the bottom of the.
Anybody that's done any microspective research is going to genuinely understand why dilution, why reverse stock split is not going to be a problem. Any retail investor coming into this company, I mean, in my personal experience, is probably going to feel extremely comfortable investing into this company. I'm over here listening to long-term holders who have been sitting here holding for years. I've been able to see Leo's relationship that he's had with the different shareholders. I've been able to sit here and listen to how he's talked about them consistently over time. I've been also able to see the stock price. It is very evident and obvious to me that as a shareholder, this is one of the easiest, I would say, investment opportunities that I've had for a very long time, especially considering what the CEO is saying about shareholders and how he's able to specifically treat shareholders, right? And some people, whatever, it's facade, whatever, cool. This is another reason why I like to emphasize the CEOs and what they're saying, the CFOs and what they're saying, and then we're also going to have another gentleman, I believe his name is Brad, also enter in and say his own perspective very soon. But it's just like, I am not worried about holding the stock long term. I'm not worried almost whatsoever. Maybe that is me being overly bullish. Maybe that's just me being naive. But going based off of all the information that I've gotten previously, going based off of all the information and past history of how he has treated previous stockholders, I'm not really worried about reverse stock splits. I'm not really worried about them, quote unquote, going back on their word and somehow not beating their earnings when their actual track record is pretty solid.
Of bottom line. So that's basically what we are thinking. The company is not paying for our cars or our any luxuries or anything. We have a very focus on the job. We are working more than 60 hours per week, each Alvaro and me. And I'm really excited about this process. And in this stage,
I'm gonna pause it really quickly. 68 hours, and we had already kind of pulled up, their share price and everything. But I kind of want to did also go into, is it this way? My bad, guys. I was trying to use my actual computer. Yeah, right here. Like, well, we're gonna kind of actually look at it and look at the executive, compensation. This is essentially, how much they pay their current executive CEOs, and it's not increasing drastically. He's not sitting here doing some crazy things. If anything, we see Juan Carlos cut his salaries cut, right? They're not doing anything crazy. Like they're very transparent about it, and the financial sheets are here to back it up. So they're not just saying these things. It's actually all kind of playing out.
I think it's important to remark the support that Brad in investors relations has been doing for the last years, and more recently has been increasing our presence, because one of the things that we had in mind is to try to spread the word about the company. And I would like that, giving the chance to Brad, you are mute, to talk a little bit about our strategy, what you are doing, how well you know about our company, how our management style that we have.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that introduction. I mean, I have to say, because I've done IR or management for other companies on there, and this company is extremely dedicated, and it's been a pleasure to work with Leandro and Alvaro and the whole team, because not only dedicated to the shareholder value, but to keep transparency, shareholder communications, and it's a temptation for a lot of companies in the OTC markets, which is a limited marketplace that has, unfortunately, I think we're all aware of that, doesn't have access to some of the bigger platforms that will allow for more volume. And so it's a temptation, and there's a lot of pressure in a lot of the OTC companies to spend a lot of money on, a variety of things. And we're talking about even compliant, whether it be compliant promotions or IR and PR. And, the bottom line for the company is that doing things organically in the right way with a long-term view has been always the goals and the marching orders that I've received. And so we're very pleased by that. Now, having said that, I think we've already talked about the fact that the company is getting more and more, which I'll make some announcements the time is ready. We're getting more set to meet with shareholders, to be more present and visible. And I've been told that there will be a lot of more shareholder meetings and roadshows. And so the company is going to take the steps to start.
And keep in mind, this was 8 months ago. Once again, this is 8 months ago. We're checking their LinkedIn. And they're constantly, guys, in this past month or two, they've been constantly going to a whole bunch of different conferences and the different shows, and just getting themselves out there and just posting more. So that was 8 months ago when he said this. They're putting into effect, right? Like just 2 weeks ago, they're announcing explosive growth forecast for 2025, and like I just like to see. I like to see it, and I was trying to see if I can find it real quick. There was a couple conferences I went to, like back to back, which I thought was amazing. Yeah, that was a little sneak peek of one right there. There's a couple of them that are very important, right? Exciting developments in Madrid. Investment banks in New York. Like, it's just very nice to see that, they're standing behind what they said, even though this was 8 months ago, 4 months, we're seeing that. I just genuinely see an effort to start meeting with a lot of these investment bankers, and once we start to get that, once again, attraction from retail, and once we start to say investment bankers actually, start to make some deals, I just see the stock starting to go parabolic, if I'm being honest, but it's not financial advice. So.
Out and introducing itself to new investors, you'll see in the rest of this coming year. But I couldn't do any of this without the ambassadors and the shareholders. These people are amazing. Every single day out of the boards, there's shareholders who are singing the praises of the company on their own and supporting in the company, and it's phenomenal. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess on that note, I'm going to backtrack here in a minute, but on that note, while we're kind of talking about your growth and your plans for the future and reaching more investors, I know you guys have publicly stated a few times that you have plans to uplist to the NASDAQ, but I know I can speak on behalf of all retail investors and kind of ask, how do you plan to do that? Because we as retail investors are under the impression you need to have a $2 minimum share price to uplist to the NASDAQ. Do you plan to reverse split, or is there another path to getting on the NASDAQ? How do you plan to do that?
Well, we have been working with NASDAQ for the last 2 years. The first phase of this process has been closing any gaps to meet all the government requirements that NASDAQ has. And right now, we close all the government requirements, and we have an independent board of directors, audit committee, compensation committee, ethics committee, and all the things. At the same time, to be honest, we have been we are believers that right now we still have room to the price to grow organically, and we have been postponing the decision to run a reverse stock split. To be honest with you, of course, it's a simple decision that we can move forward and taking some steps in that direction. But we have confidence that sooner or later in this process, the market will discover the company that we are managing and our managing style and everything. And listen, we closed an amazing acquisition like a month ago, and we are going to show a fantastic results in second quarter of this year. So in this process where the investors and shareholders know that for giving positive results in operating income every single quarter is the rule, it's not the exception. We strongly believe that we are gaining more traction and more potential long-term investors that are willing to invest in the company, and of course the price should go up in this process. But bottom line, we always have the option to reverse stock split. But we have been postponing this. But we strongly believe that I think Alvaro, the best way that you can explain is how is using your words about the run in this journey in OTC is coming to the end. So talk a little bit about your impression about this, Alvaro, please.
Yes, well, we think that the uplisting to NASDAQ is a must, so it has to be done because I think we have done everything that can be done in the...
Has to be done. They have checked off everything else. Everything else. It has to be done. It's at 30 cents right now, and $2 has to be done before 2027.
OTC market and to get more attraction to now that we are projecting to be to $4 billion revenue with net income positive. So the right place to be is NASDAQ, of course. I could say that we are almost there, just missing that requirement to have the minimum price of $2. But we will be there at the right moment for the company. But it's a must. We are invested a lot of time and efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, do you want to say anything there?
Yeah.
I'm just going to add, I never, it's such a privilege to work
I kind of skipped over that part because I feel like they kind of, addressed that part pretty clearly. But I did want to hear, it coming from Brad on like how confident this team iQST team truly is.
And be a shareholder myself in the company and have the confidence that I do every time I talk to the CEO. When I talk to Leandro, well, what about this? And what about, if this comes up and that? And he has such confidence in the business plan and the execution plan. And I don't find that in a lot of CEOs that I talk to. When I talk to Leandro, there's a sense of, I know where we're going and I know how we're going to get there. And by the way, he always appreciates, one of my favorite conversations is Leandro said to me, Brad, I know who my bosses are. It's my shareholders and my board, and he understands it. So he understands that point. And then you add to that the confidence that the company's going to get to $1 billion revenue, and he's laser focused on getting that with profitability. It's just a matter of time, which is one of the things I constantly stress to shareholders. It's not if, it's when. The company is continually meets, as you say all the time, Michael, meets and beats their.
And one thing I like to do to make sure I'm not delusional is hear from other people, right? I'm hearing it from Boilermaster. I'm hearing it from Shane. I'm hearing it from Mike, right? I'm hearing it from Brad, the IR manager. I'm hearing it off my personal opinion, and it's just like I genuinely feel like this could be a really good opportunity for people, which is why I'm genuinely trying to make sure I take the time to fully explain it in depth and honestly send it to people. Once again, that I'm close to, because I feel like this is a great opportunity with the market that we don't quite see very often.
Projections and revenue over and over again. So, the proof is already there.
Yeah, I really like that. It's one of the things I appreciated about your company early on is that you always give good guidances, but you always beat them. I see far too often a company will say they're going to achieve X, Y, Z, and then they fall short. And when they fall short, the stock price ends up plummeting back. But I want to take a quick second and kind of backtrack for a minute. You briefly brought up your IoT division, and that was one of my next questions for you guys. I read once before, and this was early years when I was first investing in your company, that your first IoT rollout of you just testing your product with those gas companies, just the initial.
Like I said, guys, make sure to check this guy out.
Attention retirees.
He does an amazing job during the interview. I mean, kudos to these guys. I would recommend still going back and watching this interview again. I'm just kind of going through some of the key parts. I
want to get to just a couple questions that were asked in the chat here real quick, because I think it's just a phenomenal opportunity to let retail investors ask you their questions, although I've got a whole couple pages here of questions. Here's an easy one for you guys. Does management have any plans of purchasing more shares on the open market at these low share prices that we're currently seeing?
The founders of the company are the largest shareholder of the company. We have more than 25 million, something like this, equivalent common shares in the company that we lock up, and we are not selling any shares. So basically, this is the best commitment that you can have in a company, is that we are not selling any shares of the company. All our companies are locked up for yearly periods, and even we decide to try to sell this, we have a leak-out agreement. So this is the best commitment, because try to buy few thousand or few 100,000 of shares is not the best way to guarantee a commitment. The best way is, you have a lockup position in the company for long term. You are not selling shares, and you are investing. You believe in your company, and you don't have any shares in the common as a common shares. Is that the best vision that we have to answer this? I know that sometimes I look at the boards, and I saw some users that asking for to buy some shares, and this is the best signal that you can see is instead to invest $20,000, we have a huge amount of shares that are in lockup for long term, in order to we cannot sell any share of the company. So that's the best approach that we have. I don't know, Álvaro.
So that's why when people ask me like, what is my price target, 1 to 2 years, that's my answer. Like, yeah, guys, I might be pulling profits along the way, but when we're looking at something like this, and the shares, the main people that have the shares are gonna have them locked up and don't plan to sell them for a while. I'm buying in at such a good price before institutional and before a lot of the short sellers. It's just putting me in one of those positions where I'm gonna become a major whale, and I'm perfectly okay with it. So when I'm thinking about my price target, and when I'm thinking about some of these things, it's just like I don't really have one when there's no real valuation of where this company can truly go because of the metrics and the fundamentals behind it. And then the key fact that the fact that nobody's selling, right, and people are going to keep acquiring, and we're all just holding. Everybody that I've heard on here, and everybody that I've listened to that is a part of the iQST cult plans on holding, then it's making me very bullish, right? But it's in the long term, because everybody's just holding. So essentially we're setting the support for the stock higher and higher and higher the more we acquire, and that's why the volume and stuff isn't that high, because everybody that is buying in is just holding.
Because you have a bunch of shares there, so.
No, well, unfortunately, right now the funds we are getting and using are for the merchant acquisition campaign that we have put in place during the last years. But once the company produces enough funds from the operations, our board has discussed a couple of times that we could use part of that money, free cash flow, to buy back from the market some shares. But the company has to first be in a position where it has free cash flow to be used on those kind of things, instead of continue growing the business. But that's basically the idea. If in the future there is a situation where there is a low price and the company has enough free cash flow available, maybe we can buy not ourselves, but the company itself buy some shares from the market.
Right, and I said that a while ago, like an hour ago. You know, I am going to go back just so he can repeat it a little bit on share buybacks, right? He kind of re-emphasizes it just a little bit, you know. Well, what's the company's plans on buying back some of the shares? And I just think it's very interesting to sit there and hear that as well. And it's just funny, I've been talking for so long that my light's going off. But I just really wanted to re-emphasize and go back and re-emphasize the share buyback part, because we had previously mentioned it earlier, but this is going to be a very key thing for a lot of the long-term investors out there.
Unfortunately, right now the funds we are getting and using are for the merchant acquisition campaign that we have put in place during the last years. But once the company produces enough funds from the operations, our board has discussed a couple of times that we could use part of that money, free cash flow, to buy back from the market some shares. But the company has to first be in a position where it has free cash flow to be used on those kind of things, instead of continue growing the business. But that's basically the idea.
But essentially, right, like I feel like the company will get there relatively quickly when it pertains to, you know, the company being at a comfortable enough point to where they can afford to buy back the shares. I mean, if we keep seeing the revenue increase as fast as it is, I really don't think we'll have a problem getting to a point where they can do share buybacks. Like, I think this is going to happen a lot faster than what it seems.
In the future, there is a situation where there is a buy the market.
And one of the shareholders asked me that I'd have 1 million more shares of
some share from the market.
I see what you're saying.
And Michael, if I could just put an end cap on that, if I had $1 for every time one of the shareholders asked me that, I'd have 1 million more shares of iQSTEL, because I would use it to buy them. But seriously, I've seen other companies, you've seen it too before, where they do that almost like a stunt, you know, and to get publicity, and it's not real and it's not authentic. Leandro said it best: when you put your money where your mouth is, you're locking up your shares, you're building value for the shareholders, and you're not looking. The company's always been against doing quick things in the market or anything that, you know, to create a look for IR, PR purposes. They're about real long-term value, and that's it.
Yeah, I think
once again, I'm just emphasizing the word key, right? Long-term value. That's why, I mean, shorts can short, but I'm not very interested in being a short, if I'm being honest.
Paul said that really well, and that's kind of why how I was hoping you would answer it. I think you buying shares in the market is a bullet day, and we'd be none the wiser. Like, a lot more about your faith in the company than you simply buying $20,000 or $100,000 worth on the open market that you could add about another 20 million of any potential future EV sales. So I guess, where are you at with your electric motorcycles? When do you plan to start full production of them, plan to selling them? I know you're currently producing an EV car as well. When do you plan to complete your production on that and start selling those?
What if there was a way to know if a stock will be?
And once again, I appreciate everybody that's, you know, still here with me. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties as it pertains to my lighting right now. I don't look too bad, but you guys can definitely see it keeps going off on me. But yeah, once again, thank you for everybody that's still tuning in.
Nice. This is a problem, you know. I have to answer this. Maybe we have to file an AK after this interview. Well, listen,
And for
breaks.
Looking forward to it.
Car, I will send you to get your reviews from this.
For
With breaks.
Yeah, with good breaks. Okay. So that's something I've been kind of excited about as well, is when I first seen your EV lineup, I was questionable about it. Not skeptical or anything, but I was questioning it because your design is far off from what we're used to seeing here in America. And when I learned more about your strategy, that you're targeting countries like Portugal and Spain and whatnot, I can see how it makes more sense in those countries. It seems that you're not trying to compete with Harley Davidson or any of our premium brands that we're used to here that throw every single luxury into every single car and motorcycle. It seems like you guys are going more the bare bones route for your electric vehicle lineup, and you're targeting countries that want more cheaper and affordable options, and they don't need all those fancy bells and whistles that most of us don't even use anyways. What kind of features can we expect in your electric car once it's rolled out?
Well, you will have a car that has, all safety to meet the European regulations that, are really strong, the European regulation, that safety standpoint. And you are going to have camera for rear view and all the things, will be a simple car, but, really with all the things needed for easy to drive, and you will enjoy it because we'll have a sport version in the motor, and it will be really fun. Believe me, you will enjoy it.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. Do you have plans to, because you mentioned your initial target strategy is targeting all these other countries where I think it'll do a lot better. Do you have any plans to ever enter either the motorcycle or car into the U.S. market? Or am I going to be the only person in the U.S. that has one?
No, yes. Listen, we have been working in market research for almost 2 years. We studied all the markets in Latin America, some states in the United States.
Yeah, that's very well said. I agree with your guys' strategy there as well, to target the countries first that I think they would be more applicable. And you're absolutely right. Across the rest of the world, they're used to much smaller vehicles than we are here in the U.S., where everything seems like it weighs 6,000 plus pounds. You just don't see that in a lot of the rest of the world. So I do think you'll find more success over there, but I am still interested to see how it does over here. But speaking about the bike and the car, what do you predict, and I know this can change over time as you finish development and everything, what do you predict your price points to be on the final version of the motorcycle if you were to equate it to like a US dollar amount? I know you're not targeting the US specifically initially, you're going to be targeting another country, but just so us American retail investors can kind of understand how much it would cost for us to purchase one of these bikes or cars.
Our goal is to have a motorcycle around $5,000. And the target for the car is around $16,000. So it's clearly that we are not trying to compete with Tesla or other, brands. It's a completely different market.
Yeah, exactly.
The best way, this is important. Let me tell you something, because our company is managed by the independent board of directors, where the majority of the members of the board are not part of the management of the company. So, every time that we talk about in the board of directors about our EV strategy is, something. This is the statement that I love it. Our idea is offer a second family car. It's not the main car that you use when you are traveling. It's the second family car when you want to go to the grocery shop, or you want to go to the hardware shop and everything. To do some errands in short run in a day-to-day basis, and do not spend too much money in the gas. So that's basically the proposal that we agree in the independent.
Yeah, so this is not a car, guys, that we're like, yeah, let's go on a road trip from California to New York. Like, no, this is a great option and vehicle for, it's like, hey, I go to the gym every day, but it's very stressful for me to sit there and have to spend so much money on gas from just trying to go to point A to point B. That's not necessarily important, right? So this is where the EV would come into place, because in order for me to save money on gas, I have to sit there and spend thousands of dollars on a Tesla or even a Hyundai, which I can't really afford. But if I have this option of what they're presenting, right, and I'm able to buy it cheap and ineffective, then I would essentially still be able to use my car when I need to go to certain places, but I would still have the option of using the option that they presented to do, very, very basic traveling that would essentially equate, that would add up in the long term.
The board of directors, and in that sense, I think it's important to say that some companies have a board, but in this company, the independent board of directors, we have a regular meeting every single month, and we review the performance of the company, the strategies, what are the projects, what are the business, what are the relations with the customers. And for us, this year is an amazing year because we are planning, and Brad, you can tell a little bit our presence in Washington, D.C., in ITW, that our board of directors will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it okay, Michael, if I make that announcement?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and I just wanted to say as a joke, a lot of companies when it comes to when electric vehicles came out in EV, right? A lot of the companies who were trying to get in that space hit the gas, so to speak, and instead, iQSTEL slowed down. And if you heard, the CEO correctly, we're talking about research, market studies, making sure that the car is safe and it's going to be released properly in the right markets. And I totally respect that. But I just want to quickly, shareholders, thank you so much. Quick announcements. We were going to be at the International Telecom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm thrilled that you were able to announce it on my stream here. We love hearing all the updates we can. You heard it here first. Precious running a $250 million company. But I have to ask, and I've been wanting to ask you this for the longest time. I've seen all of your fancy little metaverse videos and everything. It looks really cool. It looks very proprietary.
Very
I
important.
have no earthly idea what the point of any of it is or how it's going to bring you any revenue. So if you could briefly tell me what your strategy is with this new metaverse product, I'd love to hear it.
Álvaro, you?
I think you love talking about metaverse.
Well, listen, basically our vision in this point, and we have a great CEO in this point, is Jose Enrique, is working a lot, and he has been working not only at the technical standpoint and developing a proprietary technology for this. But basically our vision is that in the future, the metaverse will be the gateway for the users to interact with the companies as the websites are now. So we have been working with a really interesting business opportunity with
Business opportunity. This silly little metaverse thing, business opportunity.
a large Latin American bank and with a large retail company that we just got the draft of the contract. So we are
Draft of the contract? It's not like, they're thinking about it. Draft of a contract.
planning to moving ahead of this. It took more than we expect because it's really new for a bank and really new for a retail company having a solution in the metaverse. But we are planning to having this moving forward and great announcements this year. But at the same time, we are readdressing our division to take advantage of this technology for our core business. And in this sense, we are planning to having more announced in the second half of the year about this. But listen, we have a management meeting. Alvaro has been leading a couple of leads, business leads in this case. It's something that we are really excited to be part of this. And Alvaro, say something about the things that are growing with you.
We have following the same experience that we have in the telecom arena. So we are not developing solutions focused on end users. We are developing solutions focused on enterprises and companies and how they can use metaverse solutions, even for the way they will be related to their end users. So just imagine, for example, a huge company that is launching a new product or service, and they have to show to their sales force the new product. Then they have to send materials to many countries at the same time, or have people traveling around many places around the world and giving that information to their local employees in those places. You can have all of them together in a metaverse environment and show.
That is so cool, right? When you have international companies, and it's going to be very difficult for me to send everything, to all these different places, sell this material, show up in all these places. If we can create a space, right, essentially in the metaverse where everybody can just come and party together, it's going to be very interesting.
Them the product, they can even almost touch it, so those kind of things. That's where we are pointing our efforts. Or
if I may, Michael, just to add that.
One example that I love to mention every time. Just imagine that you are watching the Super Bowl, okay, and you always invite friends to your homes and people get together. Just imagine people that is living, in different cities or different countries, and they want to share that experience. They can do it in a metaverse.
Yeah.
They can talk in real time and share experiences and emotions in real time by watching at the same time the game. So this is the kind of use that we are envisioning for our metaverse solution.
And important to remark one thing, that our metaverse is not just a metaverse. Jose Enrique has been really has done an amazing job, including all the artificial intelligence in our metaverse. We have non-personal characters there. We have interacting with the artificial intelligence and having this. Even this is a machine, but giving you that personal touch in the conversation, so you feel really comfortable in our metaverse.
Yeah, if you take a look at the last 10K, you will see a long paragraph describing our metaverse vision in the 10K. The last 10K.
Okay. Brad, did you have?
Yeah, and I already went through the 10Ks. I mean, his company has so much information. I'm really trying to keep this video as short as possible, which is crazy looking at the time of it. But it's just like, genuinely, I can probably do another video on this stock and cover a whole bunch more on it. But it's just like, this is a really cool thing. That's all I have to say.
Something you want
to I was only going to add that if you haven't been to the iQSTEL Metaverse lobby yet, you've got to check it out. It's really cool. And there is, Leander's right, there is an AI person in there trying to replace me, but he does an amazing job in IR. And you can ask him any question. It's like I couldn't have answered it better myself. So you might want to check that out. But guys, the Meta, the company, all the companies are doubling down. The investment bankers, every metaverse isn't going away. They're all investing, doubling down big time. So for a company to have their foot in the door this early on with the AI component on there shows that the company is forward thinking and looking at the future.
I see. So to simplify it, it sounds like you're not really targeting simple one-time users like me. You're really targeting business-to-business kind of transactions, if you will. Okay. Well, let me just ask two more questions before you guys get out of here. I know you got busy schedules. But these are a couple that were asked in my Discord community. Do you see your low margins right now as being temporary and just a part of the bigger picture of your growth over everything kind of strategy? I mean, you told us how you went from a $7.5 million revenue company all the way now to $250 million revenue company, which is quite extraordinary. And I won't have you guys comment on it, but in my own personal opinion, I'm just going to go ahead and expect that you're probably going to beat that expectation this year because you beat all of your other expectations. But I won't get you in any legal trouble commenting on that. But my question is, do you see that as just perhaps a reflection of your growth? Are you expecting substantial profit hitting the books now that you have acquired iQSTEL?
My CFO is the right person.
Yes, of course. iQSTEL is adding more than $80 million in revenues, and the company has had for the last 4 or 5 years more than $1 million in net incomes. So we are adding that to our consolidated financial statements. I would prefer to say that we are going to stay now with the numbers that we have already mentioned, that we are reaching $250 million in revenues this year. But we never stop, and we are looking at new businesses, ventures, and so yes.
This is only. Sorry. Estaba hablando en español. This is only the beginning of our journey, Mike. So this is a trend that we are not planning to stop, to grow the bottom line of the company.
Okay. So we can possibly, because I know you can't comment on anything that may be in the works now, but we can possibly expect more future acquisitions down the road if it benefits the company. Okay. I've tried to word it there so I don't get anybody in any legal trouble.
Of course. We have a merger acquisition plan, and we are moving towards to achieve, and that's it.
Okay. And I know for the longest time, one of my favorite things to talk about your company was that you had no debt. But I understand you did take on a little bit of debt to acquire iQSTEL. Do you have a timeline of when you think that debt would be repaid? Do you see that as being good debt for the company? Because obviously you grew it to a much better point. What's your plan with that, though?
Okay, I will start with this, and later I will give the word to my CFO. Basically, the strategy is, we acquire debt with that is the maturity date of that debt is in 2025 in the first quarter. So we have enough time to work in other financial source, thinking in long term. But it's something that we acquire. We legally need to file an S1 with that debt for the terms of the agreement. But the intention of the company and the management and the board of directors is to looking for options to redeem that debt. So that's basically where we are. We have enough time. We have almost 9 months or 10 months as an average to work on that, and that's the intention that we have. But listen, before to end this call, I have to say thanks to shareholders that support us, to you, Mike, Brendan, that always has a very good.
But yeah, essentially, guys, I'm gonna kind of start wrapping up the video now. Like, thanks again, Mike, and everybody for even allowing taking the time to do these interviews. And thank you for everybody that is watching this 2 hours and 30 minutes. And you guys are real supporters. Once again, I just want to say thank you. But I really do love this company, and I want to be able to do 2 hours and 30 minutes of straight research and just nerding out with you guys if I didn't really enjoy it. And I really wanted to make sure that I took the time to do this video as well as possible, just to fully ensure that, once again, anybody that is trying to do due diligence and anybody that is trying to look into iQST has the opportunity and has all the resources in one spot. This is not financial advice. This is essentially why I fell in love with the company and why I put so much money into the company and why I continue to put money into the company. But I genuinely, like what I see. I genuinely like what the CEO is doing. I genuinely I can see why a lot of these guys held on for 4 years and why, they be fighting in the comments with people and why they're so bullish on it, because I think this company does have a lot of potential. But yeah, guys, it's the dividend profit, and I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you did, please leave a comment, guys. Your comments always truly help me, adding new ideas, adding new content, and just your guys' support is unparalleled. Just helping, like I always like to say, helping a kid's dream come true. But yeah, thank you guys once again for bearing with me through here. Give a like, subscribe is always appreciated. But it's been the dividend profit. I love you guys. You guys stay blessed and have a beautiful godly day. Peace out, y'all.